I wore my football.
6 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order here in the Bay City ISD Administration Building. And this meeting was posted according to open meeting request. We are going to jump right in with our invocation with Pastor Cano from Harvest Time Church.
Right. Thank you for the invitation today. Thank you for all being here. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for your goodness. Father, I pray that, Father, we would just have your heart in regards to all of the affairs, all the discussions, all the conversation. Father, I know having a united heart is what blesses you. You actually command a blessing on you. So, Father, I pray that the decisions, the discussions, Father, first and foremost will be pleasing to you, and that you give everybody here the wisdom and direction they need to make the best decisions possible for our community, for our city, and ultimately the things that will please your heart. Lord, I thank you that when we stand together, there's amazing things that can happen in and through our community. Father, I thank you for all the awards and all of those things that are going to be given out tonight. Lord, I pray you just bless all the endeavors of the students, the parents, and the families represented in and through that. Lord, we thank you for all you're doing, seen and unseen. We invite you into this meeting, and Father, let it be bring glory to you in every single way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, and our friends from Cherry are going to have to say the pledge today. Shoulder to shoulder.
I want to thank the parents from Cherry for showing up tonight and bringing your kids. It'll be so fantastic. I'm going to tell you who we have it. I'm going to read it off of this so that I don't forget anyone, so it may not be the order that they're up here. But I want to thank Adelie, Nathan, Olivia, Adrian, Quinston, Belinda, Jesse, Ava, and Justice for coming out tonight and saying the pledges for us. So, are you guys ready? Okay. US Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's turn to the Texas flag. Salute, pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one.
Thank you so much. You are welcome to.
All right. Thank you, Cherry, parents and students. Moving along, we're going to go into our good news. Does anyone from the board have any good news to share that they've seen in the past since our last meeting?
I'd like to brag on the junior high sports team, especially the soccer team, going undefeated in the regular season, undefeated in district play, and then beating Royal in the extra game at the end of the season. And then the junior high staff put an excellent award ceremony on, and then the 7th grade awards ceremony. Lots of good stuff going on.
I'd like to thank the high school staff and the kids. Last year, we only had 2 that had gone through the program at Jefferson Jackson. This year, we have 12. And I know it's because of y'all's hard work and their dedication to make this happen. And I am so proud. And then I saw the other day where we have 3 pharmacy techs. How awesome can that be? So salute to all of you that's here from the high school, because I know it takes a village to raise a child. And you have done a magnificent job in doing good work.
I'll say that I have been on several of the campuses in the past month, for field days, for different activities, and every time I step onto a campus, the joy, the amount of work that has gone in, the parents are there, all of the things that we have been talking about and working for, I see in action. So, and I know that it doesn't happen like that. That there are hours and hours to make that stuff happen. So thank y'all at every level for your commitment, especially in May, to go out with a bang. I appreciate it.
Just a couple of things real quick. I see some familiar faces in the audience. Thank you for the high school staff and all the work you put into the graduation. I know very well that is a big show, and there's no stress gone until the show is over. So thank you for your hard work. Also, I had a request for a parent conference today that I wanted to share with everyone, and a parent wanted to share at the end of the school year. We're almost at the end. We want everyone showing up. I'm not declaring the end of it by any state of imagination. We want everyone here. But anyway, near the end of the year, parent, and I didn't plan this. I know we mentioned some junior high stuff, but parent wanted to know this group of teachers was an absolute role model for her child, and that's Ms. Lebroni, Ms. Pate, Ms. Glenwinkle, Ms. Serrano, and Coach Farrell. I believe I pronounced that one right. I see it spelled, it scares me every time. And then also, same parent also gave a shout out to Ms. Solis in 6th grade as well. So it's all, we need these types of things more often. It doesn't happen enough, but that happened just today, right after lunch. And so that's the one I brought to the table. But I thank you all. And Ms. Cummings, if you would join me, and I plan to send an email tomorrow, but it's much appreciated, and good job well done.
There's one right here. And if we want to give Ms. Pate a clap.
Oh.
That's amazing. Thank you for all your work. All right, anything else? All right, we're going to move into a celebration of excellence. Our high school state qualifiers, and then our students that graduated with associate's degrees.
So good evening.
Hello.
We do have a number of our team members here, and I want to give them the honor, but I want to introduce them to you first. So from our athletic team, girls coordinator Linda Smith, our athletic director Warren Tromon, swimming coach Button, and then Coach Bernard is of all things, but here supporting the team from a number of different perspectives, and then Coach Potts for track. So I'm gonna give them an opportunity to acknowledge their athletes and the awards that they received. Coach Button, you wanna go first?
I don't see mine.
Oh, well, you wanna announce it anyway, just so they know? Perfect.
Our two state qualifiers this year were Lucy Frick in the 200 freestyle, Ian Ramos in 1 meter dive. Lucy finished 15th, and Ian was 9th in the state meet.
A band concert going on this evening, and so some of our students are in attendance at that, are actually performing.
All right, as most of you know, Coach Potts, Iris, go ahead and come on up. A few things about Iris. She's a 4-time regional finalist, finished 5th twice, finished 3rd once, finished 2nd this year in regionals, got to finish her career in Austin. She's 3-time district champion and area champion, 2-time regional medalist, and she also holds the Bay City High School Girls discus record. She broke it as a sophomore and has broken it 4 times since, which the mark stands at 138.1. So, congratulations.
Don't go far. Okay. Yeah. And then Miss Brittany Hodges is here also. She is our speech and debate coach, and we also have 1 academic qualifier. So.
Hi, Brittany is a sophomore. He competed at in several academic events at the Royal District Meet. He competed in 6 events, medaled in all 6 at district. And he had 4 region qualifications. Due to conflicts, he competed in 2 of those at the region level and qualified for state and LD debate. He placed among the top 12 in the state of Texas as a sophomore, which is very impressive. So we're very proud of him.
and Iris, if you'll join us here with the board, yes, to represent your people. And then we'll take a quick photograph before we move on to the next celebration.
And I did forget to mention, she did finish fourth at Austin, so good job, 3 feet away from medal.
Two rows, don't do 2 rows around.
You want?
To leave out our football coach, coordinator Robert Jones, and his new secretary from the Estrada, but I did not see them with all of the crowd. So apologize for that. Our next group is really exciting. Ms. Robinson already mentioned, so I'm really excited to present to you first our early college team. So if our staff will come down with me. So we have Adam Payne, who's one of our avid teachers. We have Lorraine Lopez, who is our college and career liaison. And Ms. Shelley Grimes, who is our early college counselor, and they're going to recognize our students who have earned their associate's degree.
Good evening, everyone. So we're here to recognize our 12 students who earned their associate's degree from Warren County Junior College. We are so proud of each and every one of them. We're proud of the hard work, the dedication, and the sacrifice they did in order to walk across the college stage before they walk across the high school stage. It's phenomenal. So I'm going to call them in, and then I have another little tidbit to share about 11 of these students. So first, Christopher Bocanega. Giselle Calderon. Carlon Jones. Rafael Lara, he's not here today, but want to recognize his name. Emily Sierra Lopez. Juan Martinez. Marco Mata. Leah Ochoa, she's also not here, we wanted to recognize her. Leah Ochoa. Ruby Ortiz. Braylon Williams. And Megan Moya. We're proud of each of these students, but I kind of wanted to share a tidbit. So the ones in blue, these are our early college high school students in the blue polos. So 11 of them are early college high school. We crunched the numbers, and I think it was $252,000 was invested into their education. So this is the result of your investment. Thank you very much, BCISD. So we're very proud of them. Also, we also wanted to acknowledge if you are an athlete and you're going to play at the next level, please step forward. So not only did they earn their associate's degree, take challenging classes, they are also going to be playing sports at the next level.
I just have
to this amazing group of kids standing up here is Miss Megan Moya on the end. When we graduated them 2 weeks ago, we were extremely surprised to hear the 2 awards that she was given from the college itself, Wharton County Junior College. She was given the Presidential Award, which means she had the highest GPA out of the entire Wharton County Junior College graduating class. Academic Excellence Award, which was based off an application that she submitted that included community service recognition, just a whole plethora of things that Megan Moya stands for. So we could not be more proud of her as well. So she deserves her own round of applause. This proved that what we hope they gain from being a part of early college high school and just BCISD in general is that when they choose a home and they choose a school, they will come back to BCISD. So congratulations. Congratulations.
The board can go
Do we need to squeeze in more?
No, actually, I think we got it. Okay, great.
Congratulations. Congratulations, guys. Thank y'all for coming. Way to be on all of your accomplishments. It's pretty amazing that we get to honor so many athletes, so many students from our high school that are graduating with an associate's and with a high school diploma. So way to go, Bay City High School staff. Number one, there's somebody behind the scenes doing all the work and training them and getting them to where they are and all the hours. So thank y'all. One other thing that I want to throw in real quick before we move out of celebration of excellence, you may notice our change of our team of 8 sitting up here, and Matt Murray stepped off, and so I just wanted to thank him. I know he's not here this evening, but wanted to thank him for his years of service to the school district and the sacrifice that he made to be on this board for his family, and then welcome Laura Rocha to the school board. So thank you for your service and your support. Moving right along, audience with patrons, we do not have any. We are going to take things a little bit out of order quickly. Instead of going straight into LSG, we're going to go into closed session. Convene into closed session under personnel matters. If necessary, may be taken into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, resignation, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including contract recommendations for campus and district level administrators and teachers. So we're going to convene into closed session at 6:18. We'll be back shortly.
Oh, that's been nice. I said, I told you. I thought it was in all pro sports.
Yeah.
I said, I said, for 40.
Right. We are going to move back into open session at 7:00. Is there a motion to be made?
We're on it. It's just employment
Yes.
improvements.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve employment of personnel as discussed.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll say.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any questions, conversation need to be had around personnel representative work with? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, Dr. Matters.
Thank you all very much, and for all of you that are here, usually closed session is at the end of the meeting. So we don't just talk about one item, it usually takes a very long time, so we put it at the end, but tonight is a special night. And so although we had to cover all of our business, there was some very exciting business in this meeting that I'm absolutely thrilled about. And so I'm going to take a moment with it. Earlier today at Coach Strahan's retirement get together. Y'all don't know this, but Coach Strahan gave me some pretty strict marching orders about not making a big deal. And so
That's right.
that's right. And so I'm so brave, I'm violating that right now. And so I say that because at the ceremony, at the event, I felt Coach Smith, Coach Jones had dropped the microphone moments. And I went over to Coach Strahan, I said, see how well I behaved? I didn't make a big deal, and yet here I am, and I'm gonna make a big deal. Coach Strahan, thank you very much for your service. Thank you for what you brought to this community. Thank you for the relationship that I've had with you. I've learned a lot in conversations on the sidelines at various events. Just a sincerest thank you for me personally for what you've done for this community. It's amazing, it's fantastic. And now let's talk about legacy. And so, you know, in coaching, you absolutely make huge impacts on the lives of every single player. I can say that as a former coaching player. It's amazing, there's nothing like it. And so we're also excited to announce tonight that one of Coach Strahan's former players is the new athletic director at Bay City ISD, and that is Robert Jones. Let's do a photo. What do you say? Coach Strahan has been
One time.
Please, sir. Trouble, I'm not gonna stand too close to it.
What's that?
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
That was the best.
Do what? Oh, it's.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Good to see you.
All right, now we're going to move into the LSG portion of our meeting. Good evening, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being patient as we reorganized our meeting a little bit. I appreciate it.
No, that's perfectly good. Excellent. So thank you for all the things that you're doing to put kids first. tonight, I think that when we recognize those 12 students that were having an associate's degree, that's just outstanding. And I know everybody here doesn't take that for granted. It takes a community effort, the teachers, counselors, principals, and everybody. It's really, it's just a fantastic thing. I hope you can sustain that. Yeah. And it kind of talks to what we're here for tonight. You know, our goal that we're going to cover tonight is college, career, and military. And so before we get into that, though, let's look back at last meeting. And so we have the time tracker in your folder. And if you look at that, we always like to reflect back to the last meeting and see how we did. Your meeting was 92 minutes long. We had 6 items on the consent agenda and only one other item, which really is good because you can stay focused on student outcomes. In fact, you had 66.3% of your meeting was spent focused on things directly related to the student. So congratulations for that. Our goal is to get to 50%, of course, but you're exceeding that every month. We're proud of that. And it hasn't always been that way. We reflect back a few years ago, we were struggling to hit 50%, and now we're really focused. We covered one goal last month, and that goal was on target. We had 3 goal progress measures. We covered all of those were on target. And so, really a good meeting to reflect back on last month. Now, when we think about this goal for CCMR, is to increase the percent of graduates that are college, career, and military ready from 91% in September 23 to 95% by August of 28. That's a really steep goal, and you're marching in the right direction. When we set this all up last year to look at your goal progress measures, you may remember because we have reviewed this before, what we decided to do was instead of just following, just tracking along on the college entrance exams, the dual credit, and the CTE accomplishments, what we've done is we're tracking freshmen. Let's see, it looks like we're doing sophomores, and then juniors, and then seniors. And so I'm going to have Mary Lynch come up, and she is going to have a presentation for you. We're going to first of all cover the items in your monitored report, and then we're going to switch to another report. It's called a scouting report. Excellent. All right, very good.
So we are going to start with the report that you have. 3.1 is us tracking our sophomores. And when we started this school year, we had just 1% of our sophomores who had met CCMR. And we have gotten that up now to 13% of our sophomore class. Really excited about the number of students that have completed their TSI testing. That's where the majority of that comes from. We won't have the fulfillment of dual credits for anybody who has any dual credits that they chose to take until the end of the completion of the school year. So those won't be finalized in our data until we actually get those reported. But then 3.2 is us tracking our juniors. And I do want to pay special attention to that junior class. So 3.2, you'll notice we started the year at 21%. We actually end the year at 45%, almost half. I really wanted us to get to half. But 45% truly does exceed where our seniors this year started. And so on 3.3, you will notice that our seniors only started at 37%. So we are already ending the year with our incoming senior class significantly exceeding the senior class that is leaving us. So lots of progress to be said. And I think that one of the things it's really telling is that when we were muffling through our new data systems and trying to figure out some of the things that state changed, whether they would or would not count, we had a projection for you guys back in January at 73%, and we were almost spot on. So it really turned out when we reported it to 72%. And that's what you would see right now if we were to pull a report, but that is also because we've not finished the school year with our seniors who did Ed Ready. So Ed Ready is an alternative. To be totally transparent, it is not the same as getting college credit but it's students who have not earned college credit, proving now that they are college ready. And so they've completed that college readiness requirement, and it does count for a CCMR point for them. And when we finalize the end of the school year, it looks like we will be at 90%. We do have a few variations. If some of our students in our special education 18+ program are graduated out, then we'll see a little bit of change in that number and maybe that increase. But we also will be honest that in some of the work that Ms. Lopez has done solo the second semester, we have really overcome quite a few setbacks, and we had hoped all of those seniors would have gotten it in December, and they didn't really take us seriously. And so until probably even maybe this last 6 weeks with teachers going, no, you're not doing this until you finish this. Or maybe even an administrator having them sit in their office on an off period and saying, or a period that maybe they weren't engaged with some other activity and saying, nope, you're not leaving my office until you finish this. Then we have really had quite a bit of one-on-one work. I will give some shout out to our athletic department because some of our coaches are really instrumental in some of those things. They have a little more leverage than we do in holding some things over their head that we cannot. And so some of those things came through with them as well. On the scouting report that was an addition, I just like this graphic because it shows our graduating classes progressing along the way. And so when we put this together, we also put some whys out there, and of course I'll entertain some questions. But what it contributed to our growth from 37 to the projected 90 truly is the additional TSI testing opportunities that we offer at Bay City High School. So we continue to be a testing center. Ms. Lopez pulls students out during the school day to test. We schedule Saturday testing dates. We have a number of our teachers who have worked really hard to provide specifically TSI tutorials, whether it is prior to those dates or specifically on the dates, maybe an hour before you can go in and take the exam. But that has been very instrumental. In addition to that, this SAT school day is something that has now been reported. So we offered an SAT school day in March, and we had a number of students that then also met additional requirements through that piece. And then our IBCs. So our industry-based certifications took a little longer for us to get there this year because we did have some personnel changes and we had some program shifts as to when we offered those. But Ms. Robinson mentioned that we had 3 students that just got their pharmacy certification. So that will be additionally added for those students. And we also had 27 CMA students that just tested and completed theirs. We have 3 more that are retesting on Friday. Unfortunately, we had a little fire alarm issue while they were testing, and some of them are getting offered a retest for free from the exam. Then we also have a few more in the coursework, about 36 students that will be reporting to have finished out here before the end of the school year. And those are truly testaments to teachers after school, working in the shop with their students, continuing to practice those skills. Some of the things that we've identified as action steps that we will continue to do with the upcoming graduating classes. So especially looking at that junior class that's at 45%, what are we going to be doing with them? We are offering some TSI testing opportunities this summer in conjunction with our summer academy. So it'll be running simultaneously. A lot of those students would like to have an off period their senior year, but they cannot qualify for that unless they have already met their TSI requirements. In addition to that, we will also, Mr. Townsend is not here, but Ed Ready program that I mentioned previously was free to us as a result of COVID and now does cost. So thank you to our finance team and our administrators who really helped us to find a way to continue to support that through some of our additional funding. Ms. Rollins worked on that piece, and we're going to be able to continue to sustain that, but it has now become an incurred expense for us to be able to offer that opportunity. We want to be able to get our kids to complete that. So we are going to target them from the very beginning into intervention to get those completed. So already through the summer, we know that they have not been on track to meet the TSI testing requirements. We're going to do that while we would still allow them to continue to attempt TSI. It really will be a beginning of school. And there's just one caveat to that funding, that it actually has to start at that point for us to be able to use it. So we have to have it in place before August 30th. So we will be doing that as well. And then in addition to that, we are doing some additional training with our teachers. I'm excited to announce that our AVID Summer Institute, when we are looking at some of the required trainings for our teachers, especially newer teachers, and coming from industry-based into the education field. It's really great for us to have some true engaging instruction experiences for them. So our welding team will be attending the Alvin Summer Institute as part of that, and then bringing back some of their ideas for specifically how to get college and career readiness into their programs. So, any questions?
The Ed Ready
Yes.
program that you were saying is needing funding because that was.
It was free to
Is
us.
that, federal funding?
Yes, Ms. Rollins took care of us on that.
Awesome.
Yes.
I just wanted to.
No, that is,
differentiate
yes,
that local versus
absolutely.
federal. So,
And it falls underneath some of those things that we're cycling out, but that's why it has to be in place by August 30th.
great. Thank you again for
Mm-hmm.
all your work on federal funds and trying to help us maximize what we can do for our
Absolutely.
local budget.
Any other questions related to CCMR?
There's a note on here, it says the agreement is the class of 23 CCMR bid, and will become our August 23rd baseline, that'd be for 24. right?
No, so that was when we reported that, that's where we got back in, that's what we used to set the goal for our LSG. And that really is because it's lagging data. So last year's senior class is what counts for this year's data. Good question. Thank y'all for your continued support of the programs. It definitely makes a difference for our students to know that there's support not only for college, but for career readiness. I do want to just kind of give a shout out, although we haven't recognized the students. We did have students that we took to some career expos, and we did have a few of our students speak in an offer. So it's really exciting to see those things materializing for our students, and we know that they'll be back in our community working. Just kind of a quick return and knowing that the skills that they got through our programs are going to be used.
Thank you so much for all your work.
Yeah, I really like that report that Scott, I have never seen anything like that. It was really creative, the staff created that little report to show you how your kids are progressing as they go through this class. So,
They still count if they get there past their TSI, but something's past their TSI in junior high, right? That still counts.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when they come to us, last year, we had started with that pretty low number, but they come, just a few, that have done that, and really most of that is through our early college program, because they're trying to be able to get the ability to take the actual credit courses that are part of the associate's degree. We did have, without those additional supports, there were some years that kids were in our early college program, but they couldn't enroll in the first classes until they had passed that TSI. So some of the seniors that you saw today definitely overcame that obstacle. They had some coursework they were behind on and took some summer sessions and really pushed through to be able to do that. But we have done things a little bit differently in our AVID program. We are doing testing specifically for those students to kind of give them multiple opportunities. And then all through the spring semester, Ms. Lopez continues to invite those 8th graders to the high school campus to come and test with us on Saturdays and give those tutorial supports so that we can have more of them be successful.
Whenever they take the summer classes, do they still get our discounted rate?
For the
dual credit?
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how often are you gonna offer the
Ms. Lopez, how many TSI sessions do we have this summer?
I think we have 10.
I think so. Yeah, there's quite a few.
They
It's
have-
like every other day.
They have to be in the 8th grade already to take the TSI.
Yes.
So 7th graders going to 8th grade can't do it till next summer.
Because it will count for, it's like
Yes,
a
if
5-year
they do it prior
expiration
to
date on the sport.
Oh, yeah.
If they were to go to like a 4-year college or Wharton County.
Just out of curiosity, have you seen the number of students taking the TSI in 8th grade that are maybe not in avid increase
Yes.
over the past couple of years?
Over the last 4 years, it's like been an explosion, like that's all the time. I think on most days that we offer Saturdays in the spring, there's more junior high 8th graders than there are high school students. So, yeah.
And I think one thing that's really telling is, Ms. Grimes and I talked about this, after our students who graduated from WCJC got blasted all over Facebook, more students came in now, like, how do I take the dual credit class? Is that something I can still do and sign up for? And so we're seeing that even with the 8th graders, that once kids get vetted into early college, it's still like, okay, I didn't get to early college, but can I still take dual credit classes? And so we're trying to encourage as many of them as possible. When I started here at Bay City High School 10 years ago as a teacher, I was a proctor because I didn't have my master's degree in English, it was in administration. And it was hard to get anybody to come to Bay City High School to be willing to proctor our students. So I think one of the biggest highlights for me as an administrator is after I worked so much with our early college to see where we really lacked, we still didn't have the faculty in place to truly support our students. So with our T-Class grant, we funded the master's cohort, and we now have all but 2 classes in the associate's degree face-to-face at Bay City High School with face-to-face Bay City High School teachers.
Amazing.
Yes. So that is something to be really excited about. Just to invite everybody, just so you know, at 8:30 this Friday in our theater at Bay City High School, we will be recognizing the last 2 of that cohort. We did a few last year, and we recognized them when they completed their piece, but we're going to be recognizing them as well as one of our other administrators who earned her doctorate. But we want to celebrate the work of our educators being willing to extend their education, because we know that they are our kids. And not to say anything against WCJC, because they work so hard with us. And their liaison for us, Natalie, is just stellar in her communication, even to the other professors that weren't our own. But we know that our teachers like Mr. Driver and Miss Morrison, the teachers they see face to face every day that are going to offer after school tutorials and call their parents and encourage them and go to their extracurricular activities, are going to be the ones that really provide the support that's needed for students that are freshmen through high school, through 12th grade, to be able to be successful in dual credit classes. It's hard work.
So this Friday?
This Friday,
During
8:30.
graduation?
Yes, well,
No, 8:30 in the morning.
8:30 in the morning.
I'm gonna put it on.
Yes, 8:30 in the morning.
So we're going right over it.
No. Only 30 minutes with that. No, yes.
Yeah, I look at my calendar in the morning and figure out where I need to be that day. So
Perfect.
I don't even know what time graduation is, but it's on
Yeah.
the calendar.
8:30 Friday.
8:30 Friday
at the high
morning.
school.
We're gonna kind of parade them a little bit. We will also recognize those in the audience that are all our dual credit teachers, so that it is a highlight for our staff to really be acknowledged at that point. Coach Pate was here, and being part of the AVID program has been part of a key piece as well for us. But I think that it's just a testament that our teachers are all in. They really wanted to get that, whether it was additional coursework because they already had a master's or the full master's. And it's just so exciting to see that many now on our campus.
Which 2 classes are out of curiosity?
You know what? I'm glad you asked, because I want this recorded. It's learning frameworks and speech. That's it. And so learning frameworks
And the
is a
freshman classes.
psychology-based class,
Yeah.
but it's research. And I have English teachers now that have master's degrees, but we haven't worked yet how to figure out their qualifications justifying them carrying that course too.
Yeah.
And then speech is the other one, and we just don't have anybody that's met those credentials. It is the toughest, and those are the 2 freshman courses. So it's still hard, but we have, our staff does support them. They're all together in class, and the teachers that are there are very experienced proctors for it. They have done the syllabus themselves. They have written the speeches themselves. They have given research tutorials to the students, but it is also APA format. So if anybody knows anything about English, MLA is the easy one. APA is the hard one that you have to do when you're doing your graduate work, and they're having to use it. Yes. And so what's challenging is trying to find the right person for that. I do have somebody on my staff that we've talked to that might be interested, and I think really just the obstacle that is in place is the funding for them to get the additional coursework. We ran out of that grant funding, so we were using the T-Class grant that has now ended. So we'll be looking for additional opportunities. for
It's
grants.
just terrifying. Oh,
And they have to be in a room by themselves and record the
Yeah.
speech. Nobody it's a big deal. But I will say those 2 classes, the teacher, the proctor that is in there supports them very well, and the counselors support them very well. And so it's not that they're just kind of lingering on their own trying to figure it out. the high school has been fantastic. And I know that from experience with one of my own personal children taking this classes, so it's been great. Thank you so much.
So the next item we're going to review is the superintendent constraints, superintendent constraints form. Just for everybody's benefit, so they understand, a constraint is based on community values. And so it's kind of like a guardrail goal that's set for the superintendent, in this case, the superintendent constraint. And so the ones we're going to review tonight have to do with attendance and also physically aggressive behaviors. Two things that the board is very concerned about. And so if you've kept up with any kind of news going on in the nation post-COVID, you're finding out that attendance has been a problem in schools across the nation. And it's no exception in the state of Texas. We were all running, 96, 97% prior to COVID. And some schools would hit down to 95%. But the average right now in Region 3 is like 92.5 to 93%. So when you look at yours for your cumulative total for the month of May, it's 92.2%. So that's about average for the state of Texas, or Region 3 rather, for what we're seeing. And then when we look at the item 4, constraint number 4, the superintendent shall not tolerate physically aggressive behavior from students. And you see the 22-23 monthly totals, and then you look at the 23-24 totals, and you can tell in the springtime, I was telling the head coach here earlier, I said, you tell the football's over. That's when the problems happen. But we had 38 physically aggressive behaviors in March, April, and May, as compared to 9 last year. But when you look at the annual total, last year there was 114, this year there was 102, so there was a reduction. And so I'll just ask Dr. Mack if you'd like to comment on those two constraints.
Absolutely. I'll start with the discipline piece, and with the discipline piece, if you recall, in my first year was a lot of observation from previous practices of restorative practices, etc. And of course, when it comes to physical altercations, I'm a zero tolerance person, and zero tolerance means no part in it. If you are insulting a student at a level that causes the fight, you were in it as well, and it was a mutual fight. We're not gonna tolerate it. I will say this: so this year we were not observing those practices. These were me looking at referrals and saying, and the principals can attest, I was checking the referrals. So I actually expected there to be more referrals because there was this push for a different type of accountability. And I told the principals, restorative discipline is welcome as a +1. But it must be accountability, it must be zero tolerance, it must be a referral. So I did expect to have more this year than last year. I'm glad we're under it. But the one thing is, whether it's higher or lower, we're going to remain consistent. It won't be tolerated. You can't make yourself the people's court of altercations. If there's an altercation, it's not good for school. In essence, there's no place in school for it. We have adults there. We have systems for investigations and support. Our teachers are very visible. And so zero tolerance takes care of it. And we're going to stay the course. This is the first year of zero tolerance. And so the numbers did come down, but even if they go up, it's going to be zero tolerance. Every student will feel safe in the school environment. So any questions on that one?
I have one. With this zero tolerance, I understand exactly what you're saying. For first offenders, and never been in trouble throughout their school, someone to bully him or her as a first time offender, you're sending them straight to the AUP?
Yes, ma'am. I can explain that. The reverse, that's a great point. First time offenders, that's a great point. But as a principal, how do you talk to a student and say, You can knock someone out. You get one. If you're frustrated, go knock them out because it's your first one that's a freebie. So as much as I do see that point, zero tolerance for me is zero tolerance. What you should do is go to an adult. And if you're locked up, I couldn't go to an adult. Well, let's have a conversation about that. But if it's your child, your daughter, your kindergartner, your first grader that gets punched dead in the face by a first offender, that's still inappropriate for me. I can tell you that, and I'm all for zero tolerance. Just don't do it. And if you do it, and if you feel you were justified for it, then there's going to be accountability on the other side of that. I would shudder at the message of you get one free one, because you can't carry discipline over from year to year. So you get a free one every year. You get to punch someone in the face every single year one time. And so we can't bring over from last year. So at the beginning of every year, everyone gets a clean slate by law. And so that I feel that, although I do get it, the best thing is to develop relationships with your adult teachers, to seek mediation, which is a big part of the former approach of restorative. That has been in place for many years, that you work through it versus fighting. But again, I absolutely see your point, but resetting every year, and administration can tell you, you may have one person punch another person for the first time. A lot of times it doesn't stay there. There's a friend involved, and a friend of a friend, and that friend had 13 referrals. And I'm just saying, to me, it is much better to say, you don't fight in church, you don't fight in court, you don't fight in school. Just don't do it here. I think that would be for us to get it done.
And I understand you finding my fault. You have, say that to you. It happens in the cafeteria. Very much. We use cafeteria full of adults. And this happens to a kid that has never gotten into trouble. Someone, pushing him and egging him on. At what point, and I mean, all eyes are open. So it's not like there's no supervision, but the kid is constantly doing that. And what happens is that even after the kid is like, move, he goes to sit down. And someone that same person pulls the chair from underneath him, he falls. Boy, puts his foot on him to keep him from getting up. I'm not going to say, I'm looking for this window or this whatever. I'm going to get up and punch you because now you're going to fall. And so what I'm saying to you, in some of those emails that we get, it says the word maybe as an option. So for that first offender, although you say it's zero tolerance, I think they mean a leeway. Sometimes putting them, suspending him, which I understand the rules, they're suspended and then come back off of that. Some of that for those kids is enough. But then to take them out and put them in DAP for 30 days, I think is a little extreme. That's just my opinion, but I think it's a little extreme.
And I appreciate your comments on that, and I'm so glad we have these types of conversations, and I'll certainly take that under advisement.
And Dr. Mack, any comments on the attendance?
On the attendance, we'll actually probably talk a little bit, quite a bit about attendance, and when we talk about attendance, and if I could touch on one thing before I move on, Chapter 37 in the Education Code does provide administration, specifically behavior coordinators, to determine if it was self-defense, to determine if it was an assault. And so in a typical case where you have a probability in assault, who's going to say it was an assault? Well, that's a crime. And so if it's not a crime, it's not an assault. And so it's not an assault. And again, if we get into that business of debating back and forth of how exactly it happened, let's allow the people who have the certification and the training as a behavior coordinator. That's a new training. You can't just be a principal. I can't do it anymore. I'm not a certified behavior coordinator. but it has to be under a certified, they are the experts, and again, that opportunity is still there within Chapter 37. You can consider prior issues, but again, an allegation of bullying is different than proof. And if it's proven, it's proven. And there's some very strict laws on it. And I'm very anti-bullying, and we're going to have trainings this summer to enhance our awareness and our follow-through, because bullying is not tolerated. That is horrible. So again, if it is there, it's proven, of course. But what happens most times that you see is there's way more to it, and there may be a chair move, but before that, there was an insult to a parent, let's say, and it just builds and builds. So that protection, I want to be clear, that protection is within Chapter 37. That protection of it is your first time, that protection of administrative, not my discretion, not any of our discretion, as a matter of fact. The state of Texas says that certified administrator is the only one to prescribe that, not even me. And I just wanted to place that as a caveat, because that's been a recent change. I don't remember how many years ago they brought in behavior coordinator. I don't know if I was already out of the campus business on that. But I just want to provide some clarity. That's always an option. The thing of it is, the professionals that are absolutely, they've got our kids' best interest at heart, they're going to review that information. So by legal code, that is a possibility, but that would, a similar code is in the education code where you talk about grades. When it comes to grades, I can have an opinion, the principals can have opinions. It doesn't matter. We have no domain over that. That's only the teachers. We have no domain over grades. And over discipline, having an administrator certification, you cannot prescribe discipline. You have to be supported by that behavior coordinator. So I just wanted to clear that up, because it is, when you have that approach with kids and you say zero tolerance, it's more effective than a bunch of asterisks. It's, don't do it, please. Don't do it. Tell them to don't. And if that doesn't happen, then that is a personnel matter. You know, if there wasn't supervision, that is a personnel matter. If there's a report of bullying and it wasn't followed through properly, that is a personnel matter. And the same way we ask parents to trust our kids to come and be safe, they have to trust us also to do our due diligence and really looking into those things that you're saying, because that would be unacceptable for a student to be tormented. And that what I completely agree.
So if there's one coordinator, it's gonna be just one person that oversees our school, or one person per campus?
One per campus, and you're required a minimum of one per campus. You can have all behavior coordinators, but you have to have that person who's had that training on each campus. And thank you for that. I didn't mean to bird walk, but on attendance now, let me scroll to that. Attendance. So we've been talking a lot about attendance, and it's important for attendance that we differentiate between attendance and ADA. And so this goal is written as an attendance goal. And so attendance means your average for the year. ADA, average daily attendance, it's like taking an enrollment every day of the school year. How many kids are here today? And one of the biggest differences between Texas and a lot of other states is other states have been funded by enrollment. In other words, how many kids do you have? Here's your money. The way Texas works, every single day you check your enrollment, i.e. who's sitting in a desk. And you're paid for only the students that are sitting in the desk. So we'll talk about that more later, because that's all you're paid for, is the students that are that day. And then overtime. So it's a combination of attendance and enrollment. So enrollment is definitely a factor, but I just wanted to differentiate. So this attendance goal, yes, as Mr. Williams said, a strong start, tapered off. We've had a lot of information, and I know Trustee Robichaud, you're new to it, but this is in our future newsletters, and I know I've sent quite a few to you, and you take your time with those. But really, we try to have those in newsletters and, of course, in LSG to be looking at those, especially ADA, to see where we are on the funding side of things. And so, although our attendance here, and actually it is live, so I can tell you, as of today, after today, it was 92.6. So the reason that is is stagnant is that's the time. So every day we take that value. It's 92.6 a day. It does look like we will not meet the goal of 93. And we look forward to not only meeting 93 in the future, we've got some strategies for that. Here's a data point that is critical that our families, our children need to be in school. And so we ran a report on extracurricular activities, not just athletics, not just fine arts, everything. And I'm proud to report that we almost have 800 students at the secondary level participating in some sort of extracurricular activity. Tonight we heard about state appearances and UIL academics. So when you take all those names, and by the way, I removed duplicates. So I didn't count if you play soccer and football, I just removed all duplicates. Almost 800 students participate at the secondary level in something, and that is wonderful. The tough part about that is, of those 800 students, about 47% of those students do not meet state requirements for attendance, which is state law. State law says a student must be in attendance 90% of the time that the class is on. So of the almost 800, 47% are not here. And I had to clarify because I misspoke for once. I'm not talking about them missing for an extracurricular activity. I'm saying, okay, so you may have gone to, you can make it up. I don't mean to indict any extracurricular activities, no doubt. We must have them, and that's why I measure that. That's why I report to you that we have almost 800, because you need to measure that, and you need more kids in extracurricular activities. However, you also need to look at attendance, because it's funding. And so the fact that 47% fall below the 90%, which is state law, I do feel we need some sort of intervention program that we have no pass, no play. Do not take this the wrong way. It's not don't attend, don't play. But it is a rubric that we need to bring to the board, work with the coaches, with sponsors, with principals, and say, here's a policy that says, listen, kids, you can't not come to school and then go to the extracurricular event. The best place, because you're only missing more school. Now you missed all this school and you're on a field trip and you missed school that day too. And what do we talk about here all the time? Student outcomes. So how do those absences impact student outcomes? Yeah, probably the correlation probably outstanding in that area. So again, this is not, and I love our transparency and how we get these meetings with college. This is not an unreasonable approach. This is something in collaboration with sponsors, especially with principals who run their campuses to say, what do we want to try to improve this attendance for next year? Because we really want to be around 95. And again, I would say 95 needs to be the baseline. And so that's kind of where we are. And I'll talk a lot about ADA, talk about our proposal to bring attendance up. The campuses have done an amazing job. I will point this out also. Over the last 2 years, just attendance. Over the last 2 years, we can't just say this is a problem and it's bad. Over the last 2 years, attendance has increased by 1 whole percentage point. And that's incredibly hard to do. I mean, am I right, principal? To go up a percentage point is amazing. So what are we really talking about as a constraint? No one in Texas has recovered attendance. I'm not saying recovered anything but maybe learning loss as well. But attendance, pre-COVID attendance statewide, and put that in one of the newsletters, statewide has dropped. So that 92 is not far off of the state at all.
It's about average.
So average of the state.
There are some that are anomalies that are still around 96. And they're just, it's not common enough. Not really.
So 93 was, I think, a very good goal, and we need to support our campuses, be positive with our teachers, and say, that's awesome. It did come up a point over the last 2 years, which is very hard to do. We just need to get 95.
Well, and I love that, because what you expect and what you work at is what you're going to get. If you don't expect any more, you're going to get less, right? So I love that conversation. That's a great way to go. And I knew you will craft something during summer that will come out, present to the families and the students who are making it. So thank you, Dr. Mack, for that discussion. Man, I just want to commend you guys for the work that you're doing and really the whole system. Starts right here in the boardroom, trickles straight down to the classroom. It affects the work of the principals that are going on the campus. So we want to continue to think about engaging the community. You guys have had a great year in community engagement. So we want to kind of plan for what's our next step. You know, what are we going to try to accomplish with that next year? Continue to engage with the students in governance type events, getting them engaged and so forth, and with the community involved. Next month, we're going to be considering goals 4 and 5, and we're hoping to have some kind of star results by the end of the right? Anyway, thank you very much. That's my report for this evening.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Privileged to be with you. Everybody say thank you.
Thank you for coming. Is there a motion to be made about LSG?
Make a motion to accept LSG.
Is there a second to the motion? All right, we have a first and a second. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, next thing on the agenda is our items of business. A, consider and take possible action to reorganize and elect board officers. So this is something that we have to do every year when we have people up for election, which is every year, a different rotation. So at this point, I would love to take, I guess let's start with secretary. We need secretary, vice president, and president. And then I also would like to discuss board committees and reassign those according to however, because I think it's important that we do that with a lot of things coming up in this next year, facilities, budget, all of the different pieces that are moving. I think it's a great time to just kind of put it all, lump it all together since we're reorganizing in general. All right, so as far as secretary, is there a nomination to be made?
Before we go to that, and I hope you want to take this person, but I've talked to several boards and board members, and the way that they carry out their election, they make sure that every person on the board has served in one of those capacities. No one should hold president for 5 years. No one should hold secretary for 5 years. No one should hold that. I know that we have Felix, and I want to say Mark, that has never correctly held one of those positions, or any position, right? I don't think so.
I think so.
So I know that James and Jill has, I've had secretary, but we have board members that may not do it as well as someone else did. But that's what we're here for, is to help coach and do that. But I think every board member should be in one of those positions in order to keep us to where we are. We have a new one, which is some stipulations that you cannot hold an office. But I know Felix and Mark is not, and I just think we need to give them a chance.
Oh, I agree. I don't want them to take a position that they don't want to take. So if you chose not to, I think that we need to honor their request, but I have no problem with that. So is there a nomination for secretary?
I nominate Felix for secretary. No, but it's always someone else.
I'll do secretary next time. I'll do it this time if you don't want to, that's fine. You don't want me to? do it? I'll do it, that's not fine.
So the role of secretary is.
We all want it, let me secretary. I'll just say.
I'll nominate Mark as secretary. Yes, we can nominate.
Oh. Okay. So I have a nomination for Priscilla, did you nominate Felix? So we have a nomination for Mark and Felix for secretary.
Do you want it?
I'll second James's motion.
Well,
All right, we have a first and a second for Mark for secretary.
That's okay. I knew you. I knew you.
Any questions or comments? Mark, would you like to bow out before we take a vote? All right, all in favor of Mark becoming secretary?
Alright,
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Mark is the new board secretary. All right, as far as the next office is vice president. So this will start next meeting. We're not gonna, yeah, so starting the next meeting, we'll.
I'm just apologizing in advance. You know what they say about writing, it's engineers and doctors, you know, like.
It's okay, we'll all support. All right, so vice president, is there a nomination for vice president?
I nominate James as vice president.
Okay, is there any other nomination, a second to that nomination?
James, how would you serve as vice
I'm president for 2 years and a partial term, and vice president for a couple, I don't know exactly. I enjoy serving in the role, and get to spend a little bit of time talking stuff over with Jill and with Dr. Max, so I would be honored to serve as vice president again.
Okay, is there a second or nomination? All right, we have a first and a second for James. James, you said you, okay. All right, all in favor of James, vice president? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, for president, is there a nomination to be made?
I'll nominate Jill Westmore for president.
Okay, this would be the third year for Jill, right?
I served, yes, this would be going into my third.
Yeah, this would be the third year for Jill.
Yes.
So I think the other members need to have a chance at that position. It may not be a job well done like Jill has done. She's done a fabulous job. As I believe that, and I appreciate everything she's done. But I just want everybody to be able to serve in the capacity of a board member with a chance. So
Happy to.
so if there is no one else, I will nominate.
There are 2 nominations on the table. I did speak to Trent previously because he was going to be out this evening, and he said that he would like to not take on president because of the time commitment. He did. But he served in the capacity. So there are 2 nominations on the table, one for myself and one for Priscilla. Is there a second to either of those nominations?
I'll second. I'll second Jill.
Is there any further thing? If not, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right. So we will remain the same with Mark coming in as secretary. As far as board committees, I looked back at what we did a year ago, and our finance committee was James, Matt, and myself, which Matt is no longer on the board, so we need to reconfigure that. We have curriculum, facilities, and then safety and security. So it was James, Matt, and Jill for finance. Curriculum was Priscilla and Jill. Facilities was Mark, Trent, and Jill. And safety and security was Felix, Priscilla, and Jill.
I would like to stay on the finance committee if y'all will have me. I feel like I've been getting deep into this budget process and would like to continue the momentum.
Okay.
Nobody's opposed to that.
I would like to do budget or facilities.
So
A little more into it. Somebody else wants to do the budget.
So-
There's facility, facility.
okay. So how it works is the president sits on all of them. So we need 2 members and we can't have more than 3 because then we have 4. So I'm fine with you stepping onto the finance if everyone else is. And this doesn't have to be a set in stone for a year. We can change it up in 6 months if
So James is staying on it, who else was on it with James?
It wasn't
Matt.
me, but
It was
he's-
Matt.
Oh, okay, I just see everyone, okay, that's fine.
Do you know if Jared wanted?
I don't know. And we can always plug him in and we can shift and change if needed. I think we just need to be able to get out of the gate, here with something because we have some facility stuff coming up. We have curriculum stuff. We have all of the things coming up, because it's summer and beginning of a new school year. We'll be here, sorry to say out loud before we know it. So finance, do you want to go on finance, Felix?
On plans or facility, it's usually where.
Does anyone else want to sit on finance?
Or both.
Yeah, does anyone else want to sit on finance for this? Okay, so finance will be James and Felix. For curriculum, do you want to stay on that one? Okay. Is there another board member that would like to join Priscilla on, and myself on curriculum? Okay, Laura Beth. And then facilities,
I would like to stay.
okay, and Trent is on that as well.
I would Trent too, he's a great person.
Mark and Trent on facilities. Okay, just Trent's background. And then safety and security. And so this entails, there are safety, I think what safety?
Chief,
That's twice a year, correct?
Yeah, about one.
Yes, so there are safety meetings that we attend, it's virtually, to be able to just be updated and briefed on what is going on with Chief and his department and where we are as a district. So Felix sat on that, Priscilla sat on that, and then myself. Okay. And then, anyone else want to go to safety and security?
I'll stay on what else. I'll just throw a train on it.
And we can ask, I can ask if the manager wants to join, and we can just swap it out. Okay, all right, perfect.
Put a train on it then.
Okay, that is settled. Moving, yes, ma'am, so I have in my notes, Kelly, just so you, I have finance as James and Felix, curriculum as Priscilla and Laura Beth, facilities is Mark and Trent, safety and security, Priscilla and Felix, and sit on. Yes. All right, thank you all for doing that and revisiting and kind of hashing that out. All right, public hearing to discuss 24-25 budgets. Good evening, sir. How are you? Doing well. Thank you for being patient with us this evening as we get through what we're doing.
Right, well, thank you all for your time. Once again, we're back at, budget season for sure. It's been a very, a lot of hard work going into it with the teams. We, you guys had a couple more workshops. Trustee Robinson, I know that you were unable to attend, so I'll try to bring up to speed on some of those points as I have an opportunity. So first thing that, of course, we know that Dr. Mack has been sharing this with you as well as Mr. Townsend. Two of those items or the big item at the beginning would be the teacher incentive allotment. This is just a spending plan. We reviewed this, and if there are any other questions, Trustee Robinson, Dr. Mack, and you, and I spoke to Mr. Townsend as well. He said that he would share extra details. But a lot of those, nothing's changed since the last meeting workshop, so we'll be going.
Hey, would you mind, Felix, I know the principals, if you're comfortable with it, I know some of you are. I mean, you've done a lot of work. This is, the teacher incentive allotment is not done in isolation. There's a lot of committee work. There's a lot of major decisions. And I've sat in on those and listened to your contributions. So you've definitely shaped this. So does anyone want to share a little bit about TIA and what we've discussed about different things, anything at all? Because I know you guys have had some work. It doesn't have to be comprehensive, just anything you want to share about the process.
I don't mind sharing briefly at the high school. The first year of TIA will include our math and English language arts teachers that teach an end of course exam or a subject that's tied to an end of course exam. And some of the things that we considered, the committees that included teachers from all across the district, definitely we've spent a lot of time in data this year as we did our data-driven instruction training through TEAL. And some of the teachers really spend a lot of time thinking about the value of student growth and really establishing some of those things that in the end, what's really important is that we're helping students get better, whether there's a number attached to a monetary increase in their salary or not, that everything that really was behind it was truly designed to inspire more of our students' growth. And I think the teacher growth along with it is something our teachers has taken a lot of ownership in, that they have to adapt new practices as we get new data, and that informs our decisions. And so I think that that was an important consideration. Dr. Mack mentioned attendance for students, but there was some consideration as well for attendance of our staff and how that impacts student performance. And so we did have the option to write that in, and that was a definite consideration that our staff really felt like it was important to keep in mind. And then I think, of course, one of the things to consider was, you know, in the end, our model has to work in order for us to generate any allotments. So Mr. Townsend has worked really hard to design some pieces that will be professional growth for us as administrators to ensure that we're providing the effective feedback to all of our teachers that are involved in this process, as well as all teachers in general. But then that when we are looking at just overall teacher buy-in, that the payout really be to those teachers that are going to continue to be part of Bay City ISD. And so that is included as well, that the teachers that are sustaining employment with us as they generate the allotment, you know, it's theirs, but that if they're coming to Bay City ISD, that we are, you know, really framing it, that it is you know, it is something that is part of it, that you got to be coming back to Bay City ISD to get the full benefit of that. I hope that was enough of a summary.
Thank you. Are there any questions on that portion?
All right, so just kind of revisiting the revenue projections for this upcoming year. So what we saw was a decrease from what we adopted in 23-24, ADA of 3219 to what we're proposing and adopting out with ADA 3137. So a decrease of 82 in ADA results in a $1.1 million decrease in general fund revenue projections overall. Where it affects us is going to be in the property taxes. The effects of compression we adopted last year was about 87 cents. Due to compression, it dropped down to 68. Penalty and interest taxes as well. Felt the effects of that. Interest income, just if you're not getting as much, you're not going to generate as much interest there. And then the Chapter 313 revenues, which are also affected by compression that comes in from the state, in addition to the values fluctuating for the projects. Just to rehash this point right here, the property values and tax compression used at the unknown tax rate is compressed at the lower of the state or the local compressed rate. The current property value do affect our tax compression, as I mentioned, as a tie back to the 313 agreements. And then the current unknown tax rate will decrease in the current tax year. Our state aid is based on the current year state comptroller's property values. So we'll take a little bit deeper dive into that. I'll kind of explain the effects. So just, you know, Dr. Mack hit the point earlier that it's important for students to show up to school. And we see this in the effects of ADA. They're having, you know, gains that have been incredible. But we receive an average of $10,500 per child. That's our weighted average, not getting the weeks there, but that's just the average that we come up with, you know, per child. And then you look at that decrease of 82 kids a day. Well, it results in a loss of $861,000 of revenue. Did some number crunching against it, you know, just a rough estimate of what a enrollment would be, and just kind of seeing comparison. So let's say 41 of those kids started showing back up to school on a regular basis. It provides us with an increase in revenue of $357,000. So just wanted to, you know, highlight the importance of the kids. The average per child is $10,500 per child. So, as we all know, when we bring this up for adoption, we're adopting by function. And so we're looking at the functions instruction, which would be function 11, makes up 52.7, almost 53% of the budget falls in closely by facility maintenance. things that we just have to do to make sure that we're maintaining our operations. And then just a couple of others based on percentage there, which I've got into here. So we see where we've made some gains over the last year. Also just seeing the effects of inflation to, continue instructing our students there at function 11. A lot of hard work went into function 12, Dr. Max, looking at the staffing strategies we work and the HR team. So we see improvements there. Function 13 has gone up because when we were budgeting and through this budget cycle, a lot of hard work by the principals to really highlight the development of the staff to better educate the students. And you might see an increase of one function there, but you're going to see the net effects of it because there's decreases in functions in other areas. 21 is the instructional leadership for curriculum and for special programs. Seeing a decrease there, a lot of hard work done by Dr. Crono's team as well as Mr. Townsend. Looking at 23, that's our school leadership, and it's not just saying that we have a building full of principals, but it's principals, APs, registrars, attendance clerks, secretaries, anybody who's in the front office working with those principals, supporting those campus admin, their addition to their expenses. 31 will be our counselors, and it's not just counselors on the campuses, but it's counselors. They're also working in Dr. Crono's department as well, social work services. And some of these are the effects of the ESSER rule and the ESSER clip as well. So you're going to see, for example, we had a lot of folks that were paid out of function 31 who were in ESSER, now they're coming back to the budget. Same thing with 32 and 33 for nurses. 34, a lot of just great work and efficiencies found by Scott and his team there to reduce the cost for transportation and service. Just stays consistent overall because for the most part, other than that $1,100 against function 40, which doesn't affect our local budget. 36, co-curricular and extracurricular activities, a lot of hard work done, and one of the great work done by the secondary principals who, that's where the majority of it's at, where it lives. They've done a great job of trying to reduce that. And just meeting with the new athletic director, Robert Jones, as part of this budget cycle, he's very open to a lot of ideas and attacking that function as well. Looking at 41 would be the folks in this building, making a lot of, just looking for ways to be efficient. Skyward being one of those. 51, saving facility savings there. 52 in terms of what we're spending in terms of our security, what we're, based on projections. So we're looking at savings throughout this budget, and I keep in mind that this is just a proposed budget. These are going to change. We do have board budget amendments to either increase a function and decrease another. So that's, we've seen a couple of those throughout this year. We'll do that as we pick things up. We currently have the auditors here this week that are helping us make sure that everything is coded where it needs to be. Looking at 53 is data processing services. So the folks that are in this building, and then I just want to highlight, a lot of the efficiencies that Mr. Brock and his team have done. Just phenomenal work there. A lot of big projects going on. He's done a phenomenal job on the E-Way project. So I just want to highlight that we've seen some of those savings there. 61 community services and parent involvement. It's just taking two positions, combining it into one, so you're seeing efficiency there, as well as decreasing costs across the district. 71 debt service, we're expecting to go up. 72, a bit of a savings there, and that could change depending on how some of these lease agreements go. To the audience, speaking of those lease agreements, we see some of those efficiencies, functions 51 and 53 as well. 81, nothing there. Typically, when you make this tax on projects work, so far nothing was projected to be on the books. 93 is what we have in terms of just more payments to fiscal agents. So that would be the Victoria Regional Day School for the Deaf being coded to the correct function. In terms of how things get updated throughout the last couple of years. So something that could have been coded to function 11 would now be given directives from the state to code. So and then 99 for the appraisal district. Just an increase to account for those increases. Overall, totaling an increase in projected expenditures from 23, 24, 24, 25 of $465,870. Are there any questions on that piece?
Service. One, isn't it like $1,000? No, stayed the same. Or stayed the same. Okay,
right. That was a wash off.
And then we have an amendment for a large section of money that is
Is that for the same food
No,
services?
no, sir, that lives in Fund 240. So that would be Fund 240, which is the food service one. This is just what we have here, if Rick, if you wanted to touch on that.
Okay, what that is, the rules are, the portion, there's a certain portion of the benefits as far as, we have to charge the local budget, which is that minimal amount. That's more of an accounting situation, so therefore we're going to amend, we're going to adopt the total food service budget at the same time, which is also Fund 240, but it needs to be adopted separately. This is an amount that's there, it's charged every year, and it has to do with the portion of local funds that have to pay for, it's like a part of the retirement of, it's more of an accounting thing. It doesn't really affect the local budget whatsoever, but we have to code that particular thing in function 35. But and if you want more information, I could get some information and feed that to y'all through an email or a phone call or whatever, but this is not the same. In other words, this is a local entry we make each year to adopt this local budget portion, but then the total food service budget, we have a whole other revenue and expenditure adoption also at the same meeting.
So that function, Fund 240 is not part of this.
Correct. This is going to be our maintenance and operations budget, or we're looking at the interest and safety under.
It is confusing. The other
You don't discuss since that's in the budget.
Sure, I don't have one from me, but
Second one.
all right, so looking at this, we're looking at a $316,000 increase in revenue being offset by $316,000 movement or increase, just to match on the expenditure side. So of that, that's to account for the counselors, the nurses, and some of the debt service due to the leases that we were making some correcting increase there, decreasing function 11, which is the largest function, as you're going to see in all budgets that we presented so far. That I really wait on that piece. But then on Fund 240, this is something that's separate. This is going to be the food service budget that is supplied by the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program. So that's a separate fund that we don't adopt here. That's the funding for that's provided by the state.
Okay, so that doesn't really at all.
That's going up, but we also have excess fund balance as a result of all the money that was thrown into food service budgets during COVID. A lot of people here have kids to feed, but they're still throwing a bunch of money in. And now, so the state created a problem by saying now we have to make money, we have to spend all that to get back on our normal fund balance.
Madam Chairman, the public has some questions.
Unfortunately, this is a meeting in the public, but those will be.
It's a public hearing.
Oh, it is a public hearing, you're right. Sorry about that. Yes, it is a public hearing. Okay. Can we finish this real quick and then we can come back, just this portion. I want to make sure that we get to the bottom of that and then.
Absolutely.
So just 1 second.
So we've already hit all the M&O functions for adoption. And through the questions there, the next item just kind of showing what we look like by object. 70% of the budget is payroll costs. That's very consistent with where we've been at in terms of what we're looking at ODS throughout the years. I mentioned some of the board workshops. Typically, you would say that, okay, another 10% or so, or at least 5% would be there, but as we've discussed in previous board workshops, you're seeing the 12.7% for contracted services there. It's a lot of that's being taken up by a lot of the specialists. Dr. Pronto shared that in our first board budget workshop, where we have specialists like our speech therapists, our occupational therapists, our LSSPs. I'm always making sure I'm trying to get the acronyms correct. Speech language pathologists, so a wide variety of specialists that just are not working for school districts anymore, they're going the private route, working for contractors. because of that, we're having to go ahead and contract services. So there's this kind of just overall view of what the budget looks like by percentage. We not by function, but I also wanted to present it just based on what's payroll, what's contracted supplies, other operating debt, things of that nature.
So those contractual, like you say, is speed.
So you have speech therapy, occupational therapy, there's also physical therapy, I believe. So yeah, we have physical therapists, PTAs, LSSPs, which is a license for. Yeah.
And then SOPAs.
Yeah, and you also have your speech language pathologists, the sobriety specialists that help service the special ed population. Something that I shared with the board members that were able to attend the board workshops previously was that one of the things that we look at as well is the maintenance of effort. So what you spend on the special ed population, you either have to maintain or increase that level of spending. And the difficult portion with that is that all across the state, we're seeing the same thing with the number and the percentage of the special ed population has continued to grow, continues to be projected to grow. So those expenditures are going to keep going up. So it's kind of counterintuitive to what we're trying to do here on the local level, where we're trying to reduce expenditures and such, but the state is telling us no, in order to maintain, you have to maintain your level of spending or increase it, or face financial penalties in that sense. So they're going to result in reductions in terms of settlement and things of that nature. I believe that's correct in terms of the special office. If you're not doing them and you don't meet your 3-year average, then it results in a loss. Correct. Correct.
But I'll do what you think.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Go back to the general fund revenues.
Yes, sir.
Property taxes dropping by 1.6 million. Taxes have gone up. How did you calculate that number?
And I'll speak to that. So you see the tax rate can be compressed, but unfortunately, what we're seeing here is that in order to maintain and keep up with what the state is mandating at the local county federal districts, is they're causing our. So yes, they're saying that we're bringing tax relief to local taxpayers, but at the same time they're raising the value of our property. So you're not going to see that relief in a sense, but still there. We're still not getting the full benefit that you're seeing, so that's why you're seeing that drop as well because that compression.
I know it says item income, item interest income, $1,000. What is it? What generates that income?
So what we currently have a lot of our money sitting in.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, yes, sir. Well, we currently have a lot of our funds sitting in rather than making money market account. We're trying to use the investment pool to take advantage of those interest rates, but also at times increases in expenditures, times of some of those things, and delayed payments from the local tax entities prevents the ability for us to efficiently put those into the bank and then move into the investment pool, because sometimes you have a large check right, you start getting the realm of getting payroll out, making sure you have payroll, so it's kind of minimized the window in terms of that. So just trying to make sure that we're working the local entities to make sure that we're receiving the tax checks, receiving the revenue at the time to make sure that we're maximizing the windows of interest. But due to some of the factors that we've seen, I think there's a lot of turnover there. Training is going on, so there's some delays in some of the timings of when we can receive some of those revenues here in the district. And that's just to give us some more.
And can I touch on that also on the tax piece before we go into, we'll entertain all your questions, but on the tax, at first we said taxes are going up for the school district, taxes are definitely going down. So I can start, and since I sent you an image of it to your email, not that you can pull it up, but anyone can take notes on it. So back in 1920, the combined tax rate was $1.54. From $1.54, 2021, 2020, 2020, 1920 is $1.54. 2021, $1.43. 21-22, $1.39. 2022, 23, $1.26, and this last year, 23-24 was $1.04. And we recently got our maximum compressed rate, which will be even lower this next coming year. So it has gone down consistently for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and make it 6. And those are reading from the adopted rates, Rick, so those are official. Now, they may not be the combined tax rate of the county, et cetera, I don't know, but the tax rate has gone down. Now, what has happened in that is, as the tax rate has gone down, property values have gone up, which we have nothing, we have zero to do with that. And no one wants to take credit, right? And so I can assure you, we don't establish that. And so, yes, is it kind of a bait and switch, in my opinion? Yeah, we have nothing to do with it. We have nothing to do with it. So the state is compressing those rates down to $1.04 this last year. Lowest it's ever been, it'll be lower next year. But the property values going up, it kind of comes down to, which shoes are you looking at? Because they went in the opposite direction. Property values went up, and you probably saw that. It has nothing to do with the school district. But yes, the compressed rate has gone down. So we will adopt a lower tax rate because if we don't adopt the lowest, that's not taking anything out of your hands. You're welcome to adopt the higher one. You just don't get to keep any money. And if it's higher than what they compress, it goes back to the state. So that's why I say we would probably pass it, because it would be local tax dollars going back to the state, right? I apologize for my wording on that, but that's in the moment talking through it, that the state has issued maximum compression rates. So these are the adopted rates here.
Rusty, I'll add, look at your property tax statement and go back to say 2019 or 2018 and look at your tax rate and your value and see the dollars that you paid. And I just did mine. I actually pay $1,000 less in school taxes today than I did 4 or 5 years ago because of the compression. So the tax rates are going down and property values are going up. Now, if your taxes have gone up overall, I would look at the other 7 taxing entities and ask them why they kept their tax rate the same or moved up, because then your property value goes up, you're paying a lot more taxes to the other entities, and as your average, your overall number is going up. It's not because of the school district.
So
it might be, maybe your value could have skyrocketed, and it could be a unique situation.
So is it fair to say the coffee shop, the school board is more than tax rate?
Yes,
for several years in a row.
Several years in a row, it's been
So
lower.
it'll be lower this year, so we can put that out there.
And the Senate has done a good job of reporting that for us.
Call it appraisal.
Yeah, look at your county
It's not
tax
the-
rate and
it's
see
not
if
the
it went down
school
over the last.
And if I may a little more, and this is just so important for the times that we're in, so important. So other things that you lose, what you'll hear in that, and so the state is compressing the rate, and the state says, we're gonna make up the other side. That does not happen. So if it's compressed and the state's gonna make up that rate, you will experience losses when you have the new, which I agree with as well, the new homestead exemption, right? Up to 100,000. Now, that's good for the community, it's good for me, good for you, good for everybody. But in that scenario, we will take losses there. Also, and I believe we have a local homestead in addition to the one that passed. So that is revenue that is taken away from us. When I say taken away, the state won't match it. They call it matching, and I call it matching when it's convenient. If it's matching, it's matching, right? If this is, so if you collect, it was presented tonight, if you collect 96% of your taxes, that gap, the state will not chip in. They say they're matching, but they said, you know what, you didn't collect those taxes, so we're not sending you the money. And I don't know if y'all have any other scenarios, because there are so many I've lost count of how the state does not fulfill the matching taxes. And again, that's absolutely based off data, and that is, and I'll have a few comments later about that. That's statewide, and so I'll have some other statistics later. That is a statewide practice, unfortunately.
Right. Chapter 313.
So chapter 313 revenue break can also help on this piece is you think of some of the industries that we have here. So sorry, some of the industries that we have here. So an example would be Oxea, Road, Renewable Energy, State Creek, is the tax payments today into the district. And sort of that would be the pilot payment, the payment in lieu of taxes. And so that's a change, that changes the fluctuates throughout the year. We receive that from one of the firms that we, that we employ here, which would be one of the contract services that you saw earlier, which is OKC. They help us, in terms of getting protected revenues from that. But as I mentioned, it affects compression as well as it changes, the property values, same thing that you're seeing on homes, they're going to value projects differently as well. So that's where you're going to see increases, decreases, that fluctuates with the compression.
Directly to the expenditures.
Absolutely.
I can't see the screen.
Oh, you're fine.
Load up. I think it looks like from the budget number, you all are college readiness.
College career military.
The early college high school.
CCRC, whatever it is.
CCRC.
I feel like the budget is supporting that. One question I had, guidance, counseling, and evaluation, what was proposed from previous road? Those 116,000 to 756,000.
Correct, and that was, it's predominantly due to salaries. So we had salaries that were being supplanted by a federal grant called ESSER that was brought in during COVID. So what the district has done was put a lot of those high cost salaries, think about your counselors. And so they came in 3 different ways, special 1, 2, and 3. They put high cost salaries there, so they were not in the local budget. We slowly broke those in, starting last year with the expiration of ESSER 2. Now the next ESSER 3 has expired, we're bringing those salaries back into the local budget. And that's pretty much where it is. ESSER 3 is dropping off. So salaries, so you're looking at 31, you'll see in 32 and 33 as well. So 31 is the counselors, predominantly salaries there, 32 is the social worker, and then 33 is the nurses staff as well. No, so that funding was only, Elizabeth, it was 3 years. So it was a 3-year grant that was there to help support districts. There was a lot of different rules. I kind of like to say they came up with rules as they, came on along with this quote kind of thing. So it became more restrictive as we went along. And so part of it is we're putting a trade off.
Well, I think you answered my next question. Are those social work services, health services, social work, health services, don't pay $8,000. That many sick kids in school?
I think what we're talking about here is the shift of funding.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not having to say it's a school, but once again, we're talking about the shift of funding. It's just the salaries.
So that was paid by a different source outside of our budget for 3 years, and that has ended. And so now that's the increase. It's like, here you go, you can have that. And kind of approach.
Those three
Salaries.
places that you're looking at in a row, that is the increase, is because the salaries were taken out of our local and put over into the federal, and then now we are having to put it back into the federal funds.
I think that was it. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your questions.
I don't think the public has any more questions.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
We appreciate public participation.
Yes. Thank you for coming. I think year after year. So this.
I appreciate it. That was my first representation, so that's the question. All right, well, with all that being said, we're looking at our projected revenue at 35.9 million, our proposed budget of 40.3, resulting in a projected deficit of 4.4 million. How did we get there? Well, we look at the adopted deficit from last year, 2.8, the increase in expenses of 465,000, and the decrease in revenue of 1.1 to tie back to that figure of 4.4. Items to consider: residential services for behavior. For the first time, and I've been here for 20 years, So at least for the first time in about 20 years, we now have a student in residential services living at a residential facility due to behavior. Dr. Pronto and her team have done a phenomenal job of making sure that we're prepared for that in the budget. It's not a surprise. It shows up at the end of the year. It's not showing up as an unbudgeted expense. So a lot of that, it's a very costly expenditure. And just keep in mind that students that are enrolled in those programs have to stay in there. And so they're either employable or, what was the other piece, Dr. Pronto? Either employable or, the criteria for.
It's up to them if they meet their goals, but they can stay till they're 2021.
Correct.
And just to clarify, we have no choice, and there's no grant money, federal funding for this behavioral type of support.
Correct. I've applied for our high cost funds. I won't know if we've been given that or not, but I apply for whatever I can so we can offset that fee.
So that for one student?
That's
And that's
one student.
But to share some good news for you, Trustee Robinson, when we were developing the budget, we have this cost, we're projecting this cost, because this student had originally started off in a public fee program, for lack of better terms, asked to leave said program and had to move into residential. So that was a cost that we're expecting, that 230,000, but when you look at, what we, the news we received when we were building this, it was right around the time of budget workshop number one, excuse me. And we received notification from Dr. Pronto and her team that we received another student from outside the district that came with the recommendation to be placed in residential services. A lot of great work by the teams. The students thriving here in the district appears to be on a great track, and not even looking like we're projecting to send them to a non-public aid program, but they're going to be as far as they're going to take place, their education will take place here in the district. A lot of just great work and a positive win for the team overall, positive win for the student. That they came to BCISD and they said this is the best experience they've had.
Just real quick, since we're talking about special education, and we're talking about high cost funds, we don't expect $236,000 to hit you. Just to give you an idea, and I said this earlier, that this is a statewide issue. According to the Texas Association of School Business Officials, currently there is a $2.3 billion shortfall in required special education services. And so, yes, that was tough for us, it's tough for everyone. And we often refer to those as unfunded mandates. It's law, but not paid for. So that's just to give you a little snapshot of what we're looking at statewide, $2.3 billion shortfall in special education alone. And I'll add some other ones as well that are very specific, but this is a statewide crisis. And we'll get into that as soon as we get to that point. Some of the other things, and maybe I'll just mention a couple of them. So another thing to look at is, have we heard anything about inflation? Record high 19%. And so the state has done calculations on that because we have a basic allotment. Every child for a year gets about $6,100 a year if you're here every day. So you're not getting that money. And so you take that $6,100, multiply it by every student, then multiply that by 92%. Because unlike other states, we're not paid by enrollment. We're paid by average daily attendance. If 100 kids do not show up, you don't get the money for those 100 kids, even though the buses run, even though the teachers are there, the AC runs. So you lose that. So the calculation on that, not adjusting over, since I misspoke here, but since 2019, they have not increased the basic allotment. If you calculate that without the inflation that we're seeing, that's a loss of almost $600 per child per year, which totals out, if you calculate that out for a year, just in losses to, and again, this is from the Texas Association of Business Officials. That's $1.8 million in this school district in inflation. And so gas prices, every purchase you make, we'll probably talk, if you haven't already, insurance rates skyrocketed this year, and it's all unexpected. And yes, it is a perfect storm, but it's all based on these hard data numbers. And I'll share this with you, conservatively speaking, and this is the Texas Association of School Business Officials. This is another group called TASA, the Association of School Administrators, Texas Association of School. They are conservatively, they did a survey and came back 80% of school districts in Texas, and that is conservative. I'm telling you, it's going to be more like 90, and the data will be out. We'll be able to share that. It's going to be more like 90% of the school districts in Texas are going to adopt deficit budgets, and that tells us something's wrong.
I don't know if the kids bring them to school, would you pay me a percentage of the day?
We're going to need you to be on our committee.
They did, they've got one of the highest, ADA rates in the state.
I'd like to talk about that later as well, because there's some opportunities.
Just going back to the items to consider, we're looking at the non-public aid program. So the student that we currently have in the residential services program started off there. And just once again, preparation by Dr. Cron, just to make sure that those funds were there, because, you know, when the student had originally left the IEP, individual education program. I'm still learning all the acronyms are non-financial, of course, but the IEP was changed for the student to, the recommendation was for them to attend one of the programs enrolled in the educated district. It came as a surprise to the spring, similar as, you know, they started during that program last spring. We weren't prepared for it. It's one of those things, it's what is completely unexpected from where we sit on the financial side. You know, those things happen, and these students are first of all, those things yes do. And then, so they went through last spring, turn the clock a year. By next spring, they're kicked out of the day program and put into residential services. So that's there just because of some occurrences that Dr. Cron continues to keep track of, just trying to prepare for. But there's also a lot of behavior initiatives and a lot of hard work by the curriculum team, Dr. Mack, Dr. Crono, and just overall, you know, just initiatives that they're planning to implement next year to address that. So hopefully that won't be. But it's better to have it and not need it and not have it, to be prepared for it. So looking at property insurance premiums, those have originally gone up by a little over 200,000. A lot of great work by the teams, just overall working in conjunction with each other. Scott on the facility side was really good piece on that as well. Just kind of we're looking at some of the agreements, and we're able to take one of the properties off of the policy. So that was originally about 200,000. Harder to estimate, but right there we saw a savings of roughly 30,000 right there. But once again, we're seeing increases in property insurance premiums. As you saw, we had some crazy weather here in the state over the last week. When those blown out weeks, things that we're not used to. It's kind of like a mini hurricane. You saw the hailstorms that hit Nashville and down the coast a couple months ago, right around spring break. It caused a lot of damage. When I was at TASRO, which is the conference where I go for my professional development to get a lot of my updates, the TASRO Risk Management Fund just presented and said, hey, it's not getting any better. You're seeing disasters all over the state, so you can expect those premiums to just continue increasing. Same thing. So, you know, the premium might increase by, let's say, 7%, but if the values of those properties are increasing, or you're looking by, let's say, 20%, you're going to see anywhere from a 27 to a 30% increase. And everybody else is seeing that and feeling that across the state. That's just something I forgot
to mention. This has to be said on the 313 question earlier. Compression also subtracts. That's another loss for us, because compression impacts it, and so does value. And in some cases, in our 313 agreements, we've seen an increase in value, so it's a double. Just want that.
Absolutely. And then just the other thing is an increase in the local responsibility for the state comp ed special allotment. So state comp ed is what we use to, it's a supplemental funding that we receive as a special allotment. It still comes to, and it for lack of a better word, lives in the general fund for maintenance and operations. But that's for students that are at risk of dropping out in the class all grade levels, kindergarten all the way through high school. And so we have that. A lot of that was being spent in ESSER. ESSER's going away, so now it's coming back to the local side. On top of that, we saw that there were some individuals that the salaries that were coded there that couldn't be coded there. You know, a lot of just looking at the updates in the legislation, looking at the rules, making sure that everybody's where they need to be, so that when it comes time for an audit, we're getting good results. We're in compliance. We're trying to stay compliant with what the state is demanding of us. So that's just one of those things there. It's an increase in that local responsibility of about 1.8. Total increase in local responsibility for those lines because it's not only take on bed, but it's also early education comes out to about 2.2 million. These are just the big items to consider that I wanted just to bring to your attention of how we kind of got to this 4.4.
And before we get off of that, absolutely, the property insurance, is that able to be shopped around? Was it shopped around, or is that fixed with a certain organization?
Okay, we use a broker that sends our book of business out to like 25 to 30 different underwriters. And so, and they give us a list of who all there's like 30 people, 30 underwriters that they send our book of business to. And of those 30, probably 5 or 6 or 10, probably 10 sent back that they wanted to quote. And so then when they quoted the agent, which is the Rick out of Houston, worked up those 10 and got what they considered a good price for the time. But it is, to answer your question, it is shopped that way.
Okay. Every year, pretty much?
Yes, sir. It's
Okay.
been that same way with the last 4 years or 5 years. But I did this week get a solicitation of another insurance broker, which that didn't happen much anymore, but I did get a solicitation this last week for when we renew in next March. They wanted to be part of that. So, I'm definitely gonna try to expand the voting process. So, to answer your question, they do shop about.
Sorry. Keeping in mind, we're also we're a tier 1 district.
Yeah, we're a tier 1
So
district, so therefore our premiums are,
sure.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sir. Getting into fund balances is what I've added some of these slides, and these are new, based on some of the previous presentations we've shown throughout the budget process. Just, you brought up BCISD, well, I went and looked at just kind of what they had to say about taking fund balance, because really, they have some good procedures to follow, and it's just kind of this distinguishing, I wanted to preface what I'm about to show you guys in terms of our projected fund balances with this year. So in there, you have your assets minus your liabilities equals fund balance. It's going to fluctuate daily, and there are 5 components. Non-spendable, which is non-spendable, restricted, which is restricted by either state entity or whoever gives you the money, the creditor. Committed, which can be committed by board action. Assigned, which can be assigned by who the board designates, either the district leader or committee, or the superintendent or the CFO, and then unassigned. So those are some of those different fund balances that we'll see. And then they also appear on the audit that is presented to us every fall. And then they are a culmination of school board's financial decisions over many years. Not just the board that's here in front of me tonight, but the boards that have been here serving over the years. Previously, over the last few decades, especially this last decade, it's been eventful to say the least. So, and what a fund balance is not, it's not a savings account, it's not a rainy day fund, and it's not the result of undue high taxes. And my source for this was the BCISD webpage definition on fund balance there. And how much should we have? Well, we've kind of shared that, but then just kind of tied back to it. TA's recommendation is 3 months of expenditures. You look at the Government Finance Officers Association, they say no less than 3 months. So 3 months is where you want to basically just have 3 months worth of expenditures. Tying back to it, we're looking at a $4.4 million deficit. Looking at our 23-24 projected fund balance, we're looking at 13.5. That's the unassigned fund balance. That is not because when we get the audit, you might see a higher figure, but it's because it includes the non-spendable items like prepaid items and inventories that you can't spend. So there's that piece there. You have the 24-20. So you take that 13.5 projected unassigned balance, take the $4.4 million deficit that leaves us with a 24-25 projected fund balance of $9 million, which puts us below the optimal fund balance of around $10 million.
That was a more positive number than in the previous workshop, because this number of fund balance is after the current year's projected close or not.
Correct. This is the 23-24 projected fund balance. That's what we're projecting unassigned for this current year.
And
So that's accounting for this year and the 4.4
is the projected deficit for next year.
for next
And
year.
of course, that 13.5 is an estimate, not this unaudited. We won't have that final figure until probably September at the earliest. More than likely October, early November, is where that number will be finalized and audited, and that will be what we submit to the state, which will also be on that suite.
I think you roll the next year in too, right?
Well, that originally he had not rolled the next year in, but then you did roll it into that second budget. But the first budget year was not.
Versus what I was just projecting was the 24-25, and
Yes.
we've done a lot more usually the workshops.
Yes.
So can we clarify, like maybe an understanding of what's available for y'all? I just want to make sure that you guys know it's available versus, because you may have said, I apologize.
No.
When you go to your first rating, your financial accountability rating, they give you credit for both types of fund balance, assigned in all the semantics. Committed, all the semantics, plus the unassigned. That counts towards your first designation. So you will see in your auditor's report, you will see that in the accountability report, because that will include both. And it's a bonus, it's a gimme, but nonetheless, that's just how they do it. So you will see a higher number from time to time, because we have to present that. You'll see it in the first, you'll see it in the auditor's report. Is that correct, Rick?
That's correct.
So we need to see the bigger one because we need to, we're supposed to have more than 3 months right now.
There will be,
Yeah, we will
We'll
give
do
you
this.
all. Yes, correct.
right now we're above, we've got 35. We adopt this and by the end of next year, we'll be there.
Correct. Yes.
That's next year.
That's
this time
next
summer.
year. Yeah. So we were sitting here talking budget next year, his projected fund balance is gonna be that.
We all agree on
Is
that?
that correct?
We all agree on that.
For next year.
Rick, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this time next year,
That's what we're.
depending on what's, if this was adopted here, this time as is, we would have
And that's, realize it's a budget because, that's if you spend every dollar that you budget.
Correct. So if we continue on the track, like Dr. Mack has at this point of thinning and kind of pulling together, then our fund balance could be more than that.
And Rick, I'm sorry, but it will be, because here's the thing that's important, is we won't know that fund balance at this time next year. We'll know it in October. And so we never talk about good news before it hits, but last year we adopted a 1.8 million, remember? 1.8. At the audited report, it was just above 300,000. Correct. So that's in October. So I just want to be clear also, I'm really taking our time with this to know that it will be finalized in October. And all that is making sure all of your accounts are properly charged with proper coding. And so, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, if we're sitting at 96% tax collections, we can still get more of those. And I'm not trying to paint a picture that there's not a problem, but I am painting a picture that you will see some slight changes in your fund balance all the way through October. Would that be accurate, Rick?
Yes, I mean, it's gonna be as of June 30th year, but the auditors, when they come back, they're here this week, and they come back, not, we close out our books or anything, they'll come back the last week of August. And then they'll, give us our closing entries and come up with financial statement, all this stuff. And so there's always, strong chance that we definitely won't spend our total budget by any means. So, it won't be as bad as it possibly could be, but we also, budget very conservatively. We also want to paint a picture where you can see kind of like the worst scenario.
Yes.
Is what we're really showing, in which it is the budget, but I mean, there's decisions made all through the year that we'll decide, okay, not to do whatever we planned or whatever we wanted. And also, a good example would be if we were lucky enough on insurance, for example, like we have no clue as to what the insurance is going to be on the renewal in March of 2025. But a good example would be that we would have any savings that we make during the year will directly impact the fund balance for the end of 24-25 school year. So, you know, we look all along the whole year, we make a kind of a decision by each purchase order we issue. Do we really need this, or don't we need this, or can we get by with whatever we're trying to buy? So, you know, we'll be doing that all the way through this whole next year.
And some specific examples of that are like what happened tonight with hiring an athletic director. Previously, we had a head football coach and an athletic director. Now we have a combined. That's going to change things. Any staffing adjustments, and we know staffing makes up about 70%. And when you throw in contracted services, it's more like 80%. Those are where your savings are. So kind of some of the things I put in the newsletter about adjustments to staffing for inclusion, for our emerging bilingual populations and how they're served, for facilities department, all staffing is discussed, and this is critical. We have significantly cut into the deficit. When I say this, like, well, we see a deficit, but what you don't see is how bad it could have been. And so over the last year, it was approximately 17 positions that went down. And over a 2 or 3 year period, it was closer to 30 positions that went down. And that's tremendous sacrifice. I know that. And all I'm saying is, I'm sorry, that's the most important. No one has been fired. And so you're looking at the long term, at our highest peak of staffing that I've seen, we're about 30 staff members below that. And since last year, remember that changes every day. It seems like we're at the end of the year. You have changes at the end of the year. So between this year and last year, that was 17. And again, when you say between this year and last year, at what point of the year? Because remember, you may have a staff member resign and you don't need that position. It comes down to when they resign as to which staffing number it goes with, because those staffing numbers change constantly just because it's across the state, turnover rates, et cetera. And so we're constantly watching that. Another example would be Scott Savage talking about electric bills, and that was in-year recovery. And I'm not asking for any specific numbers, but there were some in-year recoveries with utilities, correct? And so those are the things that happen. This is not an adopted budget for the year. This is what we will be working on to bring the deficit down even further.
Nope. Vince, it says budget cuts at the top. Is this the 10%? Is this the?
Correct. Yes, sir. So what we started off was at 4.7 that I showed you, then it was adjusted because of some of the salary corrections that we had to apply. The team caught work between board budget workshop number 1 and number 2. Then what we implemented was the cuts for professionals who are on travel. So that was the first initiative, and we looked at it, and then we worked together as a team. Said, okay, well, we'll cut 10% if it's not touched by an allotment, or it's not required for just maintenance and operations, so utilities and such. So this is budget cuts in place. Okay. Are we good to move on from this one? And then, just in case you have that, it's available. 3 scenarios, cost of the models: model 1, 320, model 2, 555,000, and model 3, 786,000. Keeping in mind these are not just one-time expenses, but as I mentioned about fund balances, the fund balance will be the result of decisions. It affects it over time. It fluctuates daily. So it's not a decision you're making just for 1 year, but it's a decision that you're choosing to add on to budgets and for this future fund balances as well.
And so when the last session, the hyperbole that came out, if you were tracking the news articles for teachers, at one time there was an article that stated they floated out at $10,000. That was never intended. That's not intended. I'll be clear on that. That was advertised and not funded. It was not funded. And so as a matter of fact, at the end of the session, pretty much everything was not funded out of the surplus. So when Vince says this, when Vince says this is a long-term decision, please, historically, what I'm about to say has happened historically. When the legislature does come out and mandate a raise, many times, and I think every time actually, they will say, raises go to teachers, rightfully so. Raises are awesome, I'm pro-raise. It'll go to teachers, it'll go to counselors, and there may be one other category that I'm missing, but I know those two. Typically, the state awards those. And so if you award a raise already, they're gonna say, well, you're mandated to give this raise. Yeah, but we gave this one. That doesn't count. It's on top of the one we gave. And so I just want everyone to be cautious that we're entering into a legislative session where there could be, we didn't know from last time, there could be a raise that's mandated for teachers only, and then this board will have to make a decision, and that begins in January. So as we prepare to wrap around, we may have to cover an existing raise plus a mandated raise. And I just want to be, and I want to do a good job of explaining that. And if I haven't, please let me know. I've seen that before to where it compounds the impact to the budget. And again, I'm very much, our teachers, everybody does a great job. There's no one anywhere that doesn't agree with that. I just want to make sure the tough spot, you understand the tough spot we're in, a long range and reoccurring charges that may impact fund balance and deficit, because it's a big question.
Moving on, just kind of just looking what projections look like. Deficit jumped from 4.4 to 4.7 to 101. Your projected fund balance goes from around 9 million to 8.7. And the gap begins to grow between what we're projecting for unassigned, which is available fund balance, and your optimal fund balance. Showing the effects of the ADA decrease. And Dr. Mack did this on that earlier. The staff here did a tremendous job of getting up. It's really hard to get up 1%, but if we increase it by 1% here, based on the numbers that we're looking at using the project, that practically, there's 357,000 practically pays for that raise.
And something to consider there as well. And again, we're all here a resource for the board. The board adopts the budget. It's your kids, your money, your school. We want to provide you with the best information possible. James mentioned something from Katie, which kind of gave me some thought on returning money. Katie does it returning to the schools, to the campuses. You got more money for copiers, etc. Our staff has been through a lot. One thing you could consider in all your options, you could consider at the end of next year, if right, no guarantees, if we raise at a point, remember, we've improved the point the last 2 years, and we talked about strategies to improve it more, then you could do what you did this year. This year officially in this time, remember, in this time last year, we didn't approve a raise. However, mid-year, we get a retention stipend equal in value to hitting the deficit of a 1% raise. You see what I'm saying? So I know that's a very different discussion, but all the budget knows is the budget was hit for about a 1% raise when a 1% raise was not approved. You see what I'm saying? So depending on what you want to do, we could reset that as retention at the end of the year, reward those folks, and we could come up with even formulas that give you more options or fewer options as a $500 piece. But I just want to throw out as many options. Just for that.
Just looking at bottom two, on that 555,000, deficit growth of over 5 million, drops to 8.4, optimal fund balance jumps to 7.2, and then bottom three, almost 800,000, jumps to 5.2, almost a $1 million swing. No worries, and then you drop down projected fund balance to 8.2 and 10.2, so you're seeing about a difference of 2 million. Along with the rest of the budget, it would be the debt service for Fund 599. We're projecting revenue at 35 cents. So we're projecting a deficit of 255,000 there. Overall, projected fund balance for next year still reasonably healthy, so we're looking at 1.3. And then food service, which tied back to the questions from trustee West earlier, which we're just right here, we're looking at local revenue, state revenue, equals your total projected revenue of 2.5, looking at our food service budget with all those functions there. So 35 is food service, is doing maintenance, 71 debt service, 72 lease right to use, comes out to 2.4, projected surplus or not city at 61,000. Looking at the fund balance here, we're seeing, the projected fund balance for this current year, unaudited, of course, 1.5 plus the projected surplus gives you, you see a slight increase there. Going on.
That's this year, no?
No, that was finance.
Okay.
Finance was deficit, we had a projected deficit with food service, had a projected surplus.
Okay.
And we'll be working with food service teams to continue to spend that excess fund balance now. Any further questions? Questions?
Great, thank you for that. Any other questions from the public before we move into the next? I am going to, before we move into the approval of the 24-25 budget, quickly, I'm gonna jump to the consent agenda, and we can approve that, because I believe that will help some people that might be here for that.
So we're closing the public hearing.
So we're closing the public hearing,
Yeah.
and it is 9:01. And then we're gonna move into the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anyone would like to have removed? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to be made?
Motion approved, consent agenda is approved.
Is there a second? All right, I do have one quick question. The approval of the medical director standing orders, is that for every school, Dr. Mack? Did they have the ability to offer with the medical standing?
We have one designee that we must adopt as for policy.
Okay.
So it's a district, right? Does that answer?
Yes, yes, okay. Are there any other questions about the consent agenda? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion, what's no? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, going back to the items of business, the approval of the 24-25 budget. All right, we were just presented the budget and all of it goes into it. Thank you for your work on the budget. Thank you, Dr. Mack, for your work. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion so we can discuss it. I mean, that's how we're supposed to kind of go into it. They said being a school board member would be easy. I think they lied. My stomach's been churning all month, and these are some of the most difficult things we do. But what I heard tonight was we had 12 associate's degrees from the district, and we applauded and recognized the team that was responsible for that, our state qualifiers, our CCR numbers, and we had teachers coming back to the district. We have teachers getting master's degrees. We have every bit of but 2 programs for the entire associate's degree. And so the team out there is doing a lot of the good stuff. We're thanking them constantly. Dr. Mack, you said, we got to support our campuses and the attendance. And Tony, you said the work starts here in the boardroom and it trickles down in the classrooms. We've got a full year to try to work on this. And so I'm going to challenge every employee to help us help you. But I can't sit here and not give a raise. And I'm one of 6 tonight. We increased medical last year. And so in order to make that up and to thank everybody for at least doing something, I am going to propose that we pass a budget with 2% raise. And then we've got to work our butts off to figure it out. So that's my motion.
there's a second, we can discuss.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to the motion? Well, you have to second the motion, or you have to, so are you gonna second his motion? Okay, so now we have a first on James's motion, and we have a second. Now the floor is open for discussion. And if we want to amend the motion, which is to adopt the budget with a 2% raise, then we have to make a motion to amend the motion that's been made. But at this point, are there any conversations, questions, comments, if what's to be made at this point? So now you may, sorry. I was just making sure you weren't trying to change the motion. Oh, okay. Are there any questions, comments?
I guess I've never not made a motion to get the highest raise possible. But every single year, we haven't taken away $5 million and put us below our required, our suggested, whatever you want to call it, 3-month. That's not something that I take lightly. That's not just some number they made up. You need to have 3 months, at least. We've always had a healthy fund balance. And having a $5 million, $4.5 million hit, and then saying, well, we're gonna do our best to make it up, and then knowing that, hey, next year is another $4.5 million if we don't make it up. I mean, we're talking within 2-3 years, we could have a fund balance of 0.
I don't see that happening. I know we've had discussions about 313 agreements in the future. So we've got to get to this year, next year, and then we get a pretty healthy influx. And so that's a Hail Mary, but whether we approve 0 and say, sorry again, because we did make a motion last year not to get the highest rate, to get 0. So this would be, yeah. But if we give 0, it's still less than 3 months. We get 2, thank you for your hard work, help us help you about it. And I'll take it down to every single campus and every single classroom. Find ways to cut spending, find ways to be lean, and let's do this together. But both of them get us less than 90 days. And it doesn't on our first rating report. We're not going to get that hit, but you and I know what 90 days is and where it's getting spent from. It can't get spent from restricted. It can't get spent from assigned or whatever. So, yeah, I agree. I originally was just going to have to face the music and say sorry, but I can't do that this year.
I know last year we said, well, hey, they're fixing to go back. They're going to start a new session. They have to pass something, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get some relief. And then never freaking came.
Kicked it down the road, kicked it down the road, kicked it down the road, and we get 1% in the session.
Right. And now we're in the same boat where they've got to give us some relief this time. And you're just thinking it's going to happen this time?
I'm not counting on the legislature for much of anything. I'm watching the news.
Yeah.
I think the governor's going to hold vouchers over everybody's head and the teachers are going to suffer from it. We're going to suffer from it. But what I'm saying is we as a district have to figure this out until 28.
That's when.
And I don't disagree.
So
That's when that 313 is in flux, yeah.
Right, so
Yes.
2028 is when the big flux comes in from 313.
I just projected, where is that? For, yeah, I can't get those numbers, are solid.
They're real solid, but, you know, they possibly could come back and do an amendment to the 313, which a couple of them have over the years. But I mean.
But we have to approve that, correct? That amendment?
That is correct.
Yes. Yeah, is what they've cut back on.
Yes, there's a link that I don't know if y'all look at, sent the payment schedule.
Yes.
And so there's about a 10-year, it's not forever.
Right.
So it's not,
10 years.
it's not a forever
It's not a forever
solution. It will not solve it forever.
But whenever the 313 period goes away, then those plants, that valuation goes into the, back into the, you know,
but not a full benefit, it goes into state share. When it's fully taxable, we don't get, every tax dollar we get, it falls to compression as well.
Correct,
Correct. So that's not free, that, I'm just making
I mean,
sure
it's
we
not dollar
understand,
for
I'm not
dollar.
trying to be doom and gloom.
It'll
But
go from,
you will not realize all those tax dollars from the 313 ends. You will get your share, the state share, and the state share is based on all the things we said earlier. And I'm not saying that's doom and gloom. I just don't want to give you any information that we miss anything. So I don't know that that's hugely significant, but nonetheless, it could be a perfect system where the state meets what they say they're going to do, or there's a loss in value that will drop, those sorts of things. But just an FYI.
And I hold myself accountable for this, making this a motion if it passes that, I'd like to have a monthly finance committee meeting to take a look at this every month, not just when we need it, not just during the next budgeting cycle, but every single month.
And so to get there, that would mean, and remember the discussions we've had on class sizes?
Yeah.
Remember the discussions we've had on paraprofessionals? Remember the discussions we've had on contracted services? So what I hear is my marching orders are significant cuts above those. That's what I'm hearing. And that's what has to be. If we're gonna have that every month, if we're gonna make progress, then the message is more cuts beyond the ones we've done, because we have to make it up. I just want to make sure.
So I think
is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I think that's where we sit is we understand what the staff is doing, and not just the teachers. It is every single staff member of Basic ISD. And knowing that if we're giving a long-term forever 2%, and I'm not saying I'm not for it, like that's not, I don't hear that at all. Because I do believe, I would love to give a 2%. I think the staff of Basic ISD is more deserving than the 2. I would give all of it. But if we're saying yes to a 2%, we're saying yes to more cuts and more stuff, which we have to know as a board, and I think that Bay City ISD staff has to know that that is a decision that we have to make. And it's not gonna be, we don't sit in a seat that's great. People are gonna be mad at us either way. We're gonna either give a 2% raise and people are gonna be thankful and excited, or we're not gonna give a raise, or we're gonna give a 1%, and there's still gonna have to be cuts, and they're gonna have to be major cuts, and they're gonna have to be possibly more students in classes. And so it is a dip in the ripple.
So you heard I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But 2 things you heard tonight, remember. So if we do that, we're making the 10% cut permanent, because we have to go above 10% now. And that's fine. I'm just making sure I understand my marching order. Because what we're approving is a 10% budget cut and cutting professional development. We've talked about some of those, so that's permanent as well. And I'm not saying total professional development. We're talking about, we have funding for state comp ed, we have federal funding. That won't change a lot. I just, as a board, I want y'all to make sure that these are going to be equally difficult, because it's going to have to come from somewhere. And even if there's some of those cuts are very painful, and they will give you $127,000 towards your deficit. And again, I'm in full support of you. I just want you to have the best information, because that's what we will do. We will get right to work on this. We'll do it every month. We'll cut every month.
But no matter what, if we approve a raise or not, you're gonna have to go above 10%. Because we're negative $4.5 million.
It's how much exactly? It's how many cuts we have.
So I mean, no matter what, we have to do more than the 10% we've already talked about.
You will, and you'll have to do whatever that was.
Right.
More. Right. Yeah. So yes.
And show the number of the 1% increase of 305
Yeah, the 1% ADA increase basically covers 1% raise.
Right. Not a raise. I mean, if we were going the ADA route, it would be a stipend, not a raise, because a raise is forever. Right. And it would be contingent upon 1 point, so we couldn't guarantee it there. I just want to make sure that works.
Well, at the same time, our attendance is going, our enrollment is going down so far. Our enrollment continues to decrease, and our 1%, we increase 1%. is there still a possibility to be less than that?
Less than, as far as attendance being
The
lower?
money piece, the 355 that we guesstimate.
Mhm.
Right, there's still, I mean,
If
it's
it
hard
went
to
down,
Attendance goes down and we go up 1%. then we're
Our
not
enrollment
getting
goes
the-
down.
Right.
Yeah.
but our attendance goes up to 93, but it's still less than
yes.
355 because
Like last year, if I'm understanding Felix, like last year, depending on what time of the year you looked at, we lost about 68 students. And so regardless of your attendance rate, you're gonna lose money if you lose students, because it's ADA of not only enrollment, but attendance both. And so, yes, if I'm understanding, you're saying if the attendance rate goes up a little bit and enrollment goes down, could we lose money? Yes. Did I understand that question?
we, even if we did talk about high, we still more of a deficit goes that route.
Yes.
And it could be a whole lot better too. I mean, that's just the unknown of crazy Texas school system budgeting process.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just looking at how it has trended down every year. And
Correct me, about the motion was before we make the decision.
So his motion was to approve a budget with a 2% raise.
And now we're in discussion.
And now we're in discussion of that.
And if it fails, then a new motion can come up.
Yeah.
I think we just need to be mindful of what we do, and I said again, we don't want to put something out there. But I need to be sure, and y'all may have discussed it, but I need to be sure that the money is there and that we can take it. And that even if we meet every month, I might pull something from somewhere in that unknown box. So, I may have jumped the gun, because I thought you meant that we were gonna discuss this before we would make a motion to accept.
Supposed to make the motion in a second and then discuss it. And so that's all I did was make a motion and then get a second so that we could have a discussion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the motion that James made, once someone wants to amend it, then you can amend that motion.
Well, in my opinion, I think we need to go to where we were last year and give a stipend versus the raise. The raise is gonna put us in a bit. Like we did last year, with some time, maybe we can be all working on things that we can go to that 2%. I have an issue in putting something out if we cannot follow through. But then we look like, oops.
Well, once we approve it, it's there. There's no pulling it back. So once it is motion passed, train has left the station. There's no saying, oh, just kidding, it's October and we're not gonna pay you your 2%. Once we approve it, whatever we approve tonight is approved until the next budget cycle, which is this time next year. So that's just. I mean, there's no taking it back once we approve it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold the budget proceedings hostage. If we can vote on this and it ties or fails, I'll approve whatever budget the majority wants to approve, with the intention that we get better and do something as soon as we can. So.
And I know that y'all have done a tremendous amount.
And I shouldn't say start.
No, you
Well, yeah,
were,
this
this is an ongoing, I mean, you've been working on this since the day you stepped into this, and probably before when you first entered, you have been working this problem that we have. So know that this is not a, can you please work harder? You were working and I know you were gonna continue to work and work the problem, so this is
There's
not
been a lot of sacrifice by the team. But again, when we say we're gonna work on this, we are cutting more than you've been told. That's the way you work on it. Phrases, we gotta work on it. That means cuts and cuts only.
Yeah.
So there will be another round of cuts today, what y'all are doing.
Well, I think if cuts had not already been made, we would be in a much worse place than what we saw tonight on the screen. And we're going in the right direction, even though it feels like we're not.
Want to take out of the room and say, when trustee Robinson wasn't for a raise, I am like James, I am all for it. As an educator, I look forward to those raises and what we're gonna get. But on this side, looking at where we are.
They said it was easy, didn't
It's not easy. It is not easy.
But it's easy, everybody. So are there any other discussion on James's motion with the budget and a 2% raise? Is there amendment that anybody would like to make to the motion?
It doesn't matter, whatever, as a board you decide. That's just my opinion.
So change it to a 1%. Felix, you're about to say something, sorry.
I just think it's the business side of it. Don't love out. To me, it's hard to look at other people and say, oh, we did it, but is it gonna be there for the kids later?
It has a long lasting impact.
Yeah.
We're not to the budget, but then also the people piece. If people are gonna leave, but for a district that gave a raise, they're not gonna now, and we may actually have people coming here because, hey, Bay City gave a raise. Did the districts around us do it or not? So, I mean, I think there's a quality piece there as well. I appreciate that we can have this conversation. This isn't adversarial,
right?
You know, you said do this and now therefore it's, you know.
Every respondent wants to.
I didn't know I was gonna move to about 30 minutes. Because we've been listening to it every day for, I listen to the emails and, you know, workshops and great videos, by the way. Thank you for the effort you put in the videos. I listen to them when I drive. But I can't look at the screen, so that would be illegal.
So are we moving forward with a 2% or is someone wanting to amend that? So the thing is we could amend and do a 1%, and then if something occurs and money falls from the sky, or we grow the money tree in the backyard, then we could always do a retention bonus at some point, which would then be equal to what a 1% raise. So you could get to your 2% that way. Or we could, so Dr. Mack, could we do a retention tonight? And then if somehow the legislature says, okay, we're gonna call a special session, and can we go back and do, what does that scenario look like if they were to say, here's your ADA rate is gonna go up to this amount of money, and our budget deficit quickly goes.
You can establish that. You have all the flexibility in the world. And of course, our finance department will need to know.
Right.
But remember, you did this year, and what was it, a couple of weeks?
Right. Okay.
So not only do you have to not only do you have to not decide it tonight, by not deciding, I mean, you could do a minimum, you could add in that. What I'm saying is you have every option open to you, all the way through. And finance can have some really strong opinions because we have to write the checks. But, you know, if it's a retention stipend at the end of the year, it would probably be approved in June. No, yeah, it'd have to be approved in June because if you're gonna follow ADA, it has to go to the last day of school. So you could approve it. Well, if you call a special meeting, you can do. I'm so sorry, I'm thinking of, you know, the regular meeting, but no, at any time, just giving finance enough time to turn around the payroll, it could be 1% or yes, more. That's your call. So if the state announces something in January that's favorable, that may influence your final call. Or if attendance is up higher, that may influence whether you want to say, and I won't say a percentage because that's right, but $500 is about a 1% hit to the district. You may say, we're going to do more than that to make up for the insurance payments. But again, just to answer your question, you have up until what the amount of time needed. And as a district, you can do this too. We've got 2 days of school. I'm just going to use this as an example. The data management system we have now, you can cut it off at any point and it will give you the ADA for the year that day. So you wouldn't be hypocritical to say, we're going to choose this day to make a call, because it can go down the line in one day. We found that out, right? It can go down $32,000, but in the grander scheme of things, what is, you know, so you can do it at any time, and we can close the ADA. If you were tonight looking at the ADA and say, what are we going to fund in our retention stipend this year? I think whatever you feel you can stomach it. The same thing as what we're talking about with the 2% raise. Either way you want to go, you can make that call based on data and based on the current attendance data. But it's not a raise, it's a stipend and a retention stipend. And I'm just telling you, I would move, as we do with our TIA, that if they're not coming back, I don't know if I probably recommend that you not give it to people who aren't staying here. I mean, it's a commitment, and those who stay need to be rewarded. And we're all on the same page. We need to bring up our pay. We have to bring up our pay. And some of the options, so tonight, just to recap a little bit, we talked about 313. We talked about ADA. Other things that we haven't talked about, of course, the legislature, and yes, that, as James says, that's a wild card, to say the least. But other things that we haven't talked about is that, you know, we do have some capacity to generate locally up to $3 million more, right, through favor type. And I'm not even saying that's a suggestion. I'm just saying that's your options. Your options are 313 can provide some relief. Your options are 88 can provide. Your options are that you have capacity for about $3 million of value in the pennies per $100,000 value that you have. You have that. So again, I'm talking a lot, guys. I want as much in your hands as possible. And let me just make sure I didn't miss one. I do have a presentation on this.
Are you looking for that? You mentioned that the estimator or what? Will that affect the 313? That was to go. That was to get accepted with that thing. Dropping the 313 value up to.
Rick and I can double team this as well as Vince. So if a Vader is passed and you take full advantage of the $3 million, the 313s eventually expire. And again, I'll say it before I answer that. Again, a credit to the conservative nature. We talked about how low the taxes have been compressed, and the available tax rate that we have, we're not at it. We've been conservative on the taxes. And so in that scenario, what we're saying, guys, I want to make sure that at least the three of us are hearing this. If we have a Vader goes well, generate new funds, the first set of 313s will expire because the Vader will be forever also. But when that expires, as Rick said, that money will shift over into the true tax collections. It's no longer sheltered through the 313 abatement. So
on those specific projects.
Say that.
On those specific projects.
Yes, on those few that are going to expire, and then the other ones come on. But I don't see, other than if you have what we said earlier, if you have the loss of ADA, the state's not going to kick their piece in. But I don't see that passing the Bader negatively by itself hurts 313. I just, yeah, I don't see how. So it wouldn't hurt.
It's gonna be a tax increase. Just like how we compressed it, and we brought it down, will that increase then drive it back up? That's what.
So what we would want to do.
Not initially, just when they go back, when it expires, that's when they'll go into effect.
For them, yes. Yes, sir.
It's just for the project. For example, say they have a project that they've added to their plan, it's 100 million. With the 313 agreement that we've done, they have it valued at 30 million on the agreement, for example. So they'll pay for that particular project, they'll pay taxes on 30 million for 10 years. And then once that 10 years is up, then whatever the value of the plan is, if the 10 years is up, then they'll pay taxes based upon whatever the board adopts. So, and you get money for doing the 313. So therefore, it's called a pilot payment, but it's payment in lieu of taxes. So it's kind of a bonus to go in. It's also an economic development for the county. So they're for the county, and they have to meet certain criteria. But anyway, as far as all that's true, the Bader and the 313 are totally two separate things.
Right. Okay. So, any other questions? We have a motion on the table to adopt the budget with a 2% raise. Ready to take a vote on that? Or is someone wanting to amend it?
It's gonna take 4 votes to amend it. It's gonna take 4 votes to pass it. So if it doesn't pass, it's somebody can clean making the motion.
Okay. All right, so the motion on the table is for the budget to pass with a 2% raise. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we're gonna go by person because it's, sorry, it's 2. I'm like, where are we? All right, so all in favor of a 2% raise?
I think you should call each position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or bad. Trustee, yes. Or
Yes.
Felix? No, so motion fails.
Good. Now you go take a
Okay,
motion.
now let's do
amend
it.
it.
Let's do a clean motion. Is there a motion to be made?
And if something falls from the money tree, always come back.
Okay, so what stipend? So a $500 stipend. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to adopt the budget with a 1% stipend with the possibility of a later increase or a.
Could we, if that's the motion, I just want to do things properly, but to keep it clean, could we possibly have the motion at $500 per employee versus the 1%?
Yes.
Because it's about equal to it, but it would be much harder, and some people would not get, it would really be painful for those who pay the most for insurance.
So a $500 stipend. So the motion on the table is to adopt the budget with a $500 stipend. Is there a second to the motion? Retention stipend. Is there a second to the motion? Will you make the motion?
What would that $500 stipend plan be paid out?
Would you go with the timeline, like I said, to where we couldn't award it until based on the 1%, or are you saying do the stipend whether attendance comes up or not? Is that the question?
Correct, because
what time of the year?
What time of the year? It's going to be July 1st or December or May.
But remember, and I'll say, remember December we were flying high.
Right.
it's a matter of just trying to put in those here, we're transitioning to this new software. So
Correct.
payroll in itself is going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm going to be transparent with that.
Yep.
And so
I think what I also wanted to share is also remember if we do it July 1, we still have employees that are on the budget for the 2022 wanna make sure that that's identified when we would, it would make more sense probably in September or October, because that's when every employee is on the current budget.
Again, if we're saying, I just want to make sure I understand, if we're saying 500, no matter what, commit to 500. Then we can say when, because if we're gonna say 5% contingent upon, and I don't believe that's a motion, I just want to make sure I understand, we're doing what we want to do, is that $500 retention stipend would be regardless or including the 1% increase in ADA. So 1% pays for that stipend. So either way, I'm open to it. I just want to make sure I do the right thing. Just want to do the right thing. And then if you would please give us enough time to, because it's a one-time payment, whether it's mid-year or change, whatever y'all want to do, give us time to process this versus July 1.
You need to October, December. I mean, it's typically done in December. Yeah.
So do you have a? And so the motion on the table is to give a $500, adopt the budget as presented in board book and give a $500 retention stipend in December. That's how we do it. Yes.
So like this year, we would have done it, and then 4 months later, we don't have that much. Our attendance dropped off.
Oh, yes, we don't have money.
Yeah.
So I guess, can we do the stipend at the end of the year? And if we have excess money in December, and we can do another in December, just like we did this year. And then at the end of the year, if we hit our 1% mark, and then we do a 1% stipend, then it's like, okay, I didn't negatively affect. Y'all helped us give you money, and we want to give you money. So, and we gave you all the money you just earned by increasing that the 10 to 12%. Right? Yeah, so we do it at the end of the year based on attendance, get the 1%, then we can have the 1% stipend right then. And then if we have more money, if the legislation does stuff, the money tree grows, whatever, we can do another one in December.
Or we could do another one in May.
Or in May, or
whatever.
Whenever they finally get on their butts and decide something and give us some relief, then we can come back and we can be like a 3% stipend or whatever.
They don't even meet until March, correct?
No, January 25.
January.
January 25 is when they do it.
Unless they
call a special session.
Right. And elections
But
are.
we will know a lot about ADA in May.
Right.
Runoffs a lot more.
Elections.
Well, yeah, runoffs this month.
You'll know who your Republican candidate is.
Yes.
Not who the, yeah.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to adopt the budget as presented in board book with a $500 stipend, and you're saying December, Mark is saying May, which would be, and if we increase the ADA by 1%, we would be giving that back with the ability, and this is not part of the motion, I'm just explaining, with the ability to then go back if we increase the ADA by 2% or 3% to say that you are gonna get amend that $500 stipend to be more or whatever.
One other thing I'm gonna notice is if we decide to do it in May, that would change all projections that I'm gonna be showing next year.
But it's a proposed budget.
So that would change the fund balance projection. Just wanted to throw that out there, keep that in mind. I would present it this time next year. We decide to go and do that based on the ADA, because I'd be accounting for the 500. But say we account for, we see a different increase, and then if the scenario changes, then my projections are no void that.
I would think, and I understand what you're saying, because projections, we want them to be as accurate as possible. I think if we have our, maybe James mentioned earlier about more meetings on budget, we had in the spring, or not over, whatever we all agree to on budget workshops to see where we are in the process. because everything up here is a projection.
Right.
And so we'll probably be making, well, we will be making changes anyway. At some point, we're gonna have to cut it off, and maybe as a board, they can say, you're gonna cut it off right here, and that's where we're going. And, so, yeah, that, I see what you're saying, 100%, and it's a projection, the board would say, well, you do have a ballpark figure, though, I don't wanna add any work, but at the same time, if the board's considering a 1 or 2% stipend just for semantics, that's a fairly quick value to insert into payroll, right?
So we
But thank you for sharing that, because that will be a variable, but one, wouldn't you say we can overcome it?
for sure, as long as it's like a flat stipend on the dollar numbers.
Yes.
It's a percentage, it's a moving
Yeah.
target.
So so instead of saying 2%, the board can establish the value of the one-time stipend on an exact amount. And that would even make your calculations running faster. The board looks at it in the workshop and says, I know we approved the 500. Here's the way it looks now. So that was a minimum, and now we could really bring it unless you, again, if it's, we need to nail down if it's contingent on the one. You see what I'm saying? Because at that point, you'd be saying, do we want to do the 500, or do we want to go above because ADA is awesome, the legislature's came out early? Does that make sense? Just so we're clear on what you want from us. Is it that, you know, at the end of the year, we will have that data? And to me, that's the most logical, is that we have the data and make it contingent.
Yeah. I'll do the $500 time.
Yes, make it a value.
$500 contingent on 1%.
Right.
Yes, is that better?
Sorry.
$500 flat instead of 1%, based on a 1% increase in pay.
Right, it would be, it's a $5 amount versus percentage of constantly moving.
Right.
You're saying contingent, so if we don't get the 1%.
They don't get a stipend.
Well, we can always amend that. I mean, if we're at 0.8% or whatever, we can always say, yes, we're giving it an increase. But like for the target to be, let's get the 1%, how do we do 1%? Help me.
Okay, so. Mark,
So I guess I would like
motion.
to amend the motion.
There's no motion.
No motion.
No
The motion
motion.
hasn't been seconded.
Yeah, it has not been seconded.
Oh, okay, so then I'd like to make motions where we do a stipend in May for $500 per employee, right? And, it's contingent on a 1% increase on AD.
So there's a motion been made to approve the budget this evening as presented in board book with a $500 stipend contingent upon a 1% ADA increase in May.
Correct.
Yes, a retention, $5 retention bonus.
Yes, if they don't stay, then.
Yes. So there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to the motion? All right, there's a second.
I just have 2 quick questions just for clarification. What number are we increasing from? Is it gonna be the last day of school? We know that number on the last day, is that what we're gonna do?
I would classify it as total ADA, because no matter.
Percent, yeah.
Yeah, I can get that ADA on, I can get total ADA on any day, or establish a cutoff date, we can do that. If you, I see what you're saying, if you wanna wait till the last day of school.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you say increase, wrong.
Right,
Yeah,
so we're at
yeah,
90.
yeah,
baseline.
Right, we're at 92 what now?
That's our baseline.
Right,
Yes,
are we
I-
gonna establish that on the last day of school, or are we gonna establish that as of today?
I would like to establish on the last day.
Okay.
I really do.
That was just a clarification.
Yeah.
And then retention bonuses are given if you stay to the end of the school year. If we give it in May, as long as they don't leave us by May 31st. And sign their next year's contract, is that what we're saying? Okay.
They have to be covered back for next year.
Yeah, by signing a contract at that time.
Jordan, do you have any, I mean, I know this is on the spot, but it's good to share. I agree with what James said, we're sharing great dialogue here. You know, there's verbiage in there to say, if you don't meet the retention requirements, your final paycheck, which is June.
That it would depend on what type of employee, for
Okay.
you as a teacher. If their last paycheck would be in August of that year, so it would be August of 2025. So if they were expected to stay and we retained them, that's something that we were just discussing right now too. Could we do a special pay where they didn't have to wait until their last paycheck? Because if they met the requirements that we were asking from them, could we do a special pay maybe the 1st of June to acknowledge that you had the 1% increase of ADA? We're now going to give you that $500 to breakfast instead of waiting until their last paycheck. We did it because we should have already received resignation from
Right.
an employee.
I was thinking at the beginning of the summer, they received the money, so
Yeah.
they can at least use the money for a summer trip or.
And that's what we were thinking too, is that in regards to the situation, could we as a district do a special pay or something based off of that to acknowledge that,
So a special pay shows the employee versus if stuff that, no, this is yours, this is what we said, even depending on last minute changes on increase in ADA. But I think what the question was, if they don't stay, at what point do they lose their retention stipend? Because if they receive their special pay in June and they leave 45 days before the first day of instruction,
we
which
could
is.
take it from their last paycheck.
Yeah.
That would be our process.
So it would.
We would have that.
Yeah, those are just clarification points. I started thinking about retention, I'm like, wait, I'm all the way to May, let's keep them till June. So,
Okay. So any other questions?
I mean, if we're putting stipulation on, we're giving them a target of 1%, they increase it by 2%. Put anything above that.
We can always go back and
Split it.
change it. We can give them, if they increase it by 3%, we can say, great job, we're giving you all 3%. We can, I mean. Yeah, we can always modify it.
Every percent is $500.
Right.
That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying.
I just don't want to guarantee a salary increase that goes on forever whenever we have to go through. Yeah. It's not much.
Well, well, and we have to, we're facing a big issue with the budget, big shortfall. It's just gonna keep growing because we don't know at this point what is coming. Unfortunately, and that I know we keep saying that, I know you have said that time and time again, but really, this is not gonna be solved by us making, I mean, we're gonna cut to nothing to be able to solve it, so we have to have help from somewhere outside of our school district. And that is where I think us sitting here at this table, we have to do our due diligence and start making meetings with people in Austin and say, guys, we cannot continue. Like, we are literally, we can't continue. Our fund balance will not float us for much longer. So I think that's where we, as a 7 of us, sorry, Trent, to step up and say, look, whoever the senator and whoever the representative are, like, call on them and say, we need help, or you have to do something this session that's coming up. So that is kind of my last thing, is that I would charge all of us to get moving on that and start putting some calling and doing that type of stuff, because that's the CD7. So the motion on the table, you have it back, Kelly, just break down appropriately. I mean, I'll say it again, but it's to approve the budget as proposed in board book with a $500 retention bonus, stipend, retention stipend that will be given in May, contingent upon a 1% ADA increase. All right, thanks. Okay. All right, we're gonna go back by roll call and vote. Vote, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. business adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All right, any further questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We will adjourn this meeting at 9:45.